And welcome back to the Basil Breen Boombox. I'm here with Killian McNulty, aka the Prince of Oberstown. How do you like that one?
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, he's like a Saudi oil tycoon, really.
Except in teak.
Yeah. How would you describe what you do? I know I'm jumping. We were just having a great conversation before we started.
Buy and sell furniture.
Yeah.
Second-hand furniture, vintage furniture. So I buy what I like, do it up, and sell it. And my thoughts on it are, I like Warren Buffett, and I've read a good bit of stuff about Warren Buffett, and he has a kind of an analogy about, well, it was his college professors, about a rich man smoking a really good cigar. And when he's finished with it, he drops it on the ground. And a guy who's got like a lot less money, let's call him a poor man who's behind him, those last couple of pulls on a really expensive cigar are everything to that guy. And so the way I look at vintage furniture or furniture in general is people finish with it, they want it gone. But quite often they're putting something out there that has a few pulls left in it. And that's what I have to understand, is to see, you know, the value in something that, like, I can take that, I can bring it in, I can do it up, and I can add value to it, and I can sell that back out into the market. So that's like...
That's in the basic. But what do you think then makes you, if you think you are good at this kind of being able to see the value? Is it just through experience? I know your dad. How did your dad actually start the whole... He started to kind of...
My dad was an antique collector, but he's a hoarder. So, like, not a hoarder in a kind of a I've got loads of junk sense, but a hoarder in a kind of a, he really likes to keep it. He owns it forever. His instincts are primarily towards keeping.
So what would be the difference between a collector and a hoarder? A hoarder just wants to keep. A collector...
Well, a collector, like, can often be a person who has a specific interest. Like, I like to collect old milk bottle caps.
Yeah.
Whereas my dad liked bottle caps, tools, kitchenalia, pine furniture, mahogany furniture, fire irons,
everything.
He went for the whole shebang.
Wow. And what was it when you were growing up then? Was it just stuff?
Not really. It was all kept off site where you worked with me. So, like, we lived in a normal housing estate, in a normal house with antique furniture, but yet we had probably, 50 house worths of furniture elsewhere.
Okay. And was your, like, obviously, do you get to keep some of the spoils? You know what I mean?
Oh, it changes. It comes in and it comes out. And that's what happens with most people in the antique trade, is that, your table here, which is quite beautiful, you find another more beautiful one. And then
you should have brought one then, you know what I mean?
I was thinking of bringing my own chair, but I wasn't. I didn't have enough time. I forgot to ring you.
I can't even think of any of the names anymore.
Yeah.
I used to know a few of them. I know the Eames.
Yeah.
Every time I see an Eames chair now, I'm just like, I know that chair. Or there's this table, has this kind of circular metal bowl in the middle of it. I think it's been Italian. It kind of has a step in it as well.
Could be Willie Rizzo. I'm not sure, like, which one.
We'd have to get into it again.
Yeah, I'd have to go and have a go.
But yeah, so when did you sort of? So your dad's doing the antique collecting, and was it just you kind of just got pulled in for the ride, or did you decide to?
I think for the later part of this chat, right?
Yeah.
I think it's important to say that I feel, looking back on it now, that I was 21 when I started. I was sleepwalking. I was fast asleep. It was meant more to me to go out on the lash than it did to think about what I wanted to do. I didn't go to college. I didn't have a degree. I didn't have a direction. There was nothing I thought of doing. You asked me, or you kind of started with a bit of a question earlier, which was like something about being good at something. Like, I think I ended up doing what I should do, but by accident. And in a way, I came into it and I gave it a lot of time. Like, I'm currently like kind of, really thinking hard about my next... If you break your career down into, say, 3 sections, and I've been through 2 of them, what I want to do in the final third is now a real, thing that I am really trying to get to the nub of, because I've given everything to the business in a way, and now I want to give it to myself. I want the last kind of ride home to be about me and my enjoyment of what I've done, what I understand, what I can do, and so on and so forth. So,
and what does that look like, just in terms of?
I don't know yet. Like, I'm hoping that we could trash it out here. That's why I'm here.
Well, do you have any aspirations for design or anything?
No.
Not at all.
No, it'll continue to resemble something that I do now, but it's going to be a lot less. Like, I would have always referred to my wanting to be around where I worked as Stockholm syndrome. Like, I just felt like I had to go in all the time and be there all of the time, and like, not really do something for me, and like say no to stuff that maybe I should have said yes to, because I just had this kind of like, tunnel vision about being there for some whatever reason, whatever. I don't know that reason yet. I haven't figured that one out exactly entirely, so but I think
did. From just the year that I spent working with you and seeing how you just explain to people furniture and condition, and there's a level of transparency, I think, that you sort of bring with you in kind of how you do business and how you approach customers and how you approach just I think it comes down to a certain understanding of you have a certain idea of what fair is. Your version of fair is it's very. It needs to be fair, otherwise we're not doing it. And I think that also comes down to maybe. I think you said something to me before about reputation, especially in your game.
Like so reputation, right? Like, so in my opinion here. Right, my theory is that you were born with two virginities, your real virginity and your reputation.
Okay, yeah.
And if you fuck either of them, they're gone. They're completely gone. And so many people play fast and loose with their reputation. I will fucking die before I will fuck my own reputation in any way, shape, or form. I will lose money hand over fist. I will do anything.
Yeah.
And so, like, I guard that fiercely. And that is. It's not problematic vis-a-vis some transactions, but every now and then you get somebody in who's a little bit ducky-divey and a little bit kind of like, acting the dick with you, and that does not go down well with me. And it's kind of down with what you're talking about level of fairness.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to be very fair to them, but if they're taking the piss out of me, I'm going to react negatively to that. And I have to... I have to try and keep it all very nice and whatever. But you see it a lot with blokes, right? So had a lady in recently, came in with her husband, and she was very interested in stuff, but he kept saying, this is really expensive. We're going to have to talk about this. We're really whatever. And that just gets you on the back foot, like straight off the bat. You're immediately like, you're walking around with them, trying to kind of like, have a good meeting and impart your information to them. And in my opinion, if that's too expensive for you, stop looking at it and get looking at the thing that's in your price range, right? Like, in reality, because it's designed to be sold at that range for a specific reason.
Yeah.
And so when people start doing that, you're kind of walking around and you're kind of like, you're already building up the
tension is
ready
in
for the
the air.
battle. Yeah, absolutely, And then it's kind of like, it's... But in fairness to that guy, we did a deal. He was good in the end. There wasn't any hassle. But he's just saying all the wrong things. Like, a lady walked in there a while ago. She came with her daughter, and she was an older lady. And she says to me, she says, "You're very expensive." And I said to her, "Compared to who?"
Yeah.
She said, "I don't know."
See,
I said, "Well, when you figure that out, come back to me. Like, because you've got to compare apples with apples. Like, who are you comparing me to?"
There's an interesting study that I read in this. It's kind of related. It just kind of triggered this off, where I think it's the 7 the psychology of influence, I think it's called. But basically, it breaks down all these different studies in relation to how humans kind of react in certain situations. So one thing is the law of comparison. So let's say you are trying to sell somebody something, and you're trying to sell them a table, and you have loads of tables, right? So you kind of show them the more expensive tables first, and then they're like, "Oh, geez, that's an expensive table," whatever that means to them. And then, so when you show them the cheaper table, it feels better to them, even though if they had seen probably the cheaper table first, they'd feel differently about it because they didn't have the comparison before. You know what I mean? So I wonder, like, is there any kind of tricks of the trade, or are you're just
we don't use them.
You're just straight. You're just like, this is what's possibly
100%.
wrong with it. This is what we've done to it.
Yep.
And that's it.
That's it. It's make up your own mind. I'm not going to force you in any way, shape or form. Now, what I will do is I'll say to you, you can return it within 2 weeks if you don't like it. You don't even have to tell me why. I'll give you all your money back. I'll deliver it for free, so you don't have to kind of like consider that there's a loss like straight off the bat, or I'll include the delivery, like let's just call it. And, you know, I will try, and I'll even say to people, if you want to try it in your own house, if you're unsure, try it in your own house. Now, all of those things technically are part and parcel of a sale, like, and kind of, in a way, they're
what your rights are in a sense.
They are pushing the product on the person in one sense, but the reality is that, like, what I'm trying to say to them is, you know, I want you to be happy, and I want this to be the right piece for you. Like, I love it when somebody buys something and they're like effusive about it. They're ringing me up and they're saying, I fucking love it. This is amazing. And oh, la, 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 la. Like, I had one person who came in and bought something, and I could just tell, like, that they'd gone down the wrong road first. They'd gone down the road that they felt that they should do because society dictated this. And I said to them at the end, I said,
what do you mean by that?
They bought all of the shit that they thought that they're meant to buy. Like, because, you know, the stuff their mates have,
or
whatever it was, like, say, you know, Arnott's or Minima or some other place, like, it was all like kind of whatever, different. And it didn't mean anything to them. They weren't invested in it in any way, shape or form. It didn't speak to them, let's just say. And they ended up buying the thing, and I said to them, this could be very expensive for you. I said, this could be an expensive purchase because this could be the opening of the doors, right? And they came back a while later. They bought a few other pieces, and they said, you were absolutely right. They said, as soon as that went into my house, it was the only thing I loved. I fucking hated everything else. I had to get rid of it all.
Oh, well.
You know, so, like, you know, it does happen, and like, and that's brilliant because that's not. You know, you're not just selling them a piece of furniture or something like that. You're selling them something that, like, what we sell is niche, is super niche, right? And so you're selling to somebody who's decided, I'm going to swim against this tide, right? We all swim with a shitload of our own tides, right? But every now and then you find a little tide that, like, you think, you know, this one's a little bit different for me, like, compared to, say, others for the crack, right? So look, like, I am a firm believer. Like, I've a friend who, you know, firmly believes that, like, he's almost unique, and I like to say he's unique just like everybody else, right? We all are the same in many ways, right? And so the thing is, and we all act in similar fashions, but at the same time, we do have a few little niches that, like, set us aside and allow us to express ourselves, like, you know, for argument's sake, like you with your music and with various other things, etc., etc.
My odd socks.
Exactly. You know, whatever it is, the thing is, and then some other people are just pure conformist.
But that's what I think, they're conformist because it's safer. I actually was a massive conformist in my, like, colour was something that I never really was into in my clothing or anything. But then when I started busking and I was kind of stepping out into the world, I used to just want to blend in. I used to just want to wear greys and blacks, and I never really thought, because if I took an interest in style, that meant I was, like, playing, like, a vanity game. Whatever the thing I had in my head was just preventing me from expressing myself, really. Because if you express yourself, what does that make? It makes you a little bit vulnerable. Oh, what if you're not even consciously thinking this, but it's kind of like this kind of subconscious thing. So if you're able to just, if you have a beautiful piece of furniture, for example, in your house, and it means something to you, and you had a story, you bought it from this person, and
people love that. Like, honestly, the amount of times we hear that back, people say that to us all the time. But just to kind of go off on a tangent, because I love a good tangent.
I love it as well.
Yeah. So, Sean, I'm a very curious person. It's why I'm here, right?
Yes.
And so when I was listening to Sean,
just wanted to check it out.
Absolutely. I was listening to Sean, and Sean mentioned some guy, I can't think of his name, was like Naval or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, on a podcast, right? And so I listened to two shows with him in it. But in one of them, going back to what you were saying about the colour, was this guy was talking about how, like, when he hears a really important bit of information, he immediately starts to strategize about how can he impart that information to others, and what does that say about him. And your man said to him, well, like, you know, in one way, like, if the reason why you want to do it is you want to just put it out there and it makes you feel better and it's good for other people, then who gives a shit? Like, you know, that's fine. But if you're putting it out there to stroke your own ego, etc., etc. So if you want to wear specific color duds and it's about how you feel and how it makes you feel, and it's not about, like, you know, some other, like, you know, thing that's, you know, you're not, like, kind of trying to, I don't know, send some other fucking weird message, then what the fuck does it matter?
That's what I'm saying. We delude.
Get on with it.
Yeah, exactly. We, unfortunately, I think, even when I'm saying now that why I want to even express what I'm expressing, the rationale that I'm using in my head, it feels logical, it feels rational to me, but there's also this aspect that's not seen or visible to me. So I think we actually kind of delude ourselves a bit sometimes. There was this really cool study where, so there's this condition where if you have half of your brain, you're still pretty functional. They've basically had people that can function. I don't know what side it is, but if they can't move their left arm or something like that. But let's say if you ask them, can you grab that glass with your left hand? They'll go, yeah, sure, and they won't move or anything. And then after, you'll be like, oh, what happened? And they'll rationalize it. They have a story for what happened with the left hand and why maybe it didn't happen. So there's the story not even that we tell ourselves. I think sometimes we tell the world because it's less abrasive sometimes. You know what I mean? Like if I say, like even the podcast, a part of me, you know, when I'm starting off doing it, it's like, you know, I want to try to get ideas out there. But I like hearing like myself back and hearing back and improving. That's another aspect. And I like it when I do something that I'm proud of, like music and stuff as well. So the ideas like that, or the reasonings that you kind of say, maybe kind of protect yourself a little bit sometimes. You know what I mean?
Well, okay. So listening back again when you were talking there the other day, right?
Oh, this is so
and
bad.
If you think about everything that everybody says, everybody is constantly trying to protect themselves, right? Like you mentioned cancel culture there, and like cancel culture, like fuck me, you know, like what can, you know, you're protecting yourself in what you say and whatever, and like you can't even expand on a bad idea to figure out that it's a bad idea because you're dead, you're shot
as soon
dead.
as you step in.
Exactly, right? So the thing there is that, you know, and again, like I said to you when I arrived, I said I didn't think about this at all because I didn't want to kind of be formulaic about anything. I wanted to, you know, react and whatever. And I just thought, you know, I'm going to try and be less protective, like, you know, and try and give you an honest answer instead of like some, you know, protective bullshit stock answer because it might jiggle a little stone loose somewhere or whatever. Because, you know, the whole thing is down to, you know, like are we ever really fully honest, like with ourselves or with anybody else, like really genuinely, like, and I don't mean to say that I am not the person that a lot of people perceive me to be, but at the same time, how often do I delude myself to believing that I am maybe something slightly different to you know who I am, I know who you are. Like for the most part, there's a lot of stuff we won't say to each other simply because we don't want to hurt each other's feelings. But at the same time, like, and I thought about that, like again in relation to talking to you and whatever, it doesn't make any difference anyway, even if we were to say them, because like ultimately, how often do you change somebody, and how often do you really help somebody, like to, and even using the word help is wrong, because like, are you helping them, or are you, is it more about you, like, and what you're saying? Like I'm saying to somebody, like, you know, like, you know, you're, I don't know what it is, like, let's say for the crack, you just say you're a shy timekeeper, right? Yeah. And la 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 la, like, you know, they probably will never change in their life. I'm probably not affecting any change at all. So why am I saying it? I don't know, but we are all a bit too protective of ourselves, I think.
So how, as a kind of business owner, with that in mind, because it's very hard. It's hard when if you tell somebody what to do. If you say you need to do this, and it is kind of about you as well. And there's a part, it depends on how receptive you are. I think like a lot of things that you said to me, I tried to be receptive to it. Some things I wasn't towards the end, maybe, but I think in general I had an open mind. You know what I mean? I always
felt that you needed a different context to understand half of what was said to you. And you weren't getting that context from me because all you knew was that, like, in that given time. I think you'd come out of college, you didn't have a lot of experience of working for people. And I was kind of trying to say to you that, like, I don't think that you understood the level of freedom that you had to explore. And that, like, you were going to end up somewhere else where you were going to be boxed. But maybe boxing was better, you know, in a sense. So I don't know. I was, you know, funnily, I saw a thing the other day and it said your kids watch you grow up. Like, my daughter's just turned 21. Like, and so I was 27 when she was born. And like, well, 28, like, I'm 49 now. So she... you know, she has seen myself and Niamh, like, you know, figure it out. Like, we knew fuck all, like, when she arrived, right? Like, absolutely fuck all of anything. And like, and then, like, you know, the funny thing with kids as well is that, you know, they get to a specific age and you think, oh, this is all happy days. Then something else happens, like they start to see people, or they start to drink, or they're going out, or they're off to college, or Katie's in Utrecht in college at the moment. You know, it just never ends. It absolutely never ends, you know. And so when you were with me, like, what I knew there was all that I knew. Like, and I was learning as much as you were learning, but I could feel that, like, you know, you had a golden opportunity to try to express yourself, but you had nothing to base that on in a way other than what you learned in college.
When I realised, like, oh, that was actually a great time. And it was great because we actually spent so much time. This is actually the first time we've been alone in a room. Like, we used to, my memory is I'd be working here and you'd be working there. Yeah. And it would just be interjected with conversation. And I remember actually...
Tangents,
yeah. It was amazing. But it was like I just found someone that just got it a bit. You know what I mean? I'd never kind of experienced that feeling of understanding, in a way, on some of the ideas I was even coming with. And I even remember... I remember actually one thing you helped steer me away from was I was actually... Because right, how I got this job was so crazy to me at the time, because I was in a real down period. I'd been through a really bad breakup, and I didn't tell you at the time, but I dropped out of my masters. I didn't kind of tell anybody that because of the heartbreak. So I was just like, it was all just going wrong. And then when I showed up that day, and then we had that conversation, you basically said, "Would you want to work for me? And you can do the website stuff or whatever." That was, I just couldn't. It was one of the, up until that point, it was one of the, like, greatest moments of my life. At that point, it was I couldn't believe the kind of the energy I was feeling, and just that the universe was moving for me. So, and I was getting real into kind of this The Secret, this kind of stuff at this time, right? So it kind of collided with that. And I remember saying something, I forget what it was, but I was saying something about the universe, and you just wanted to keep, you just were like, well, you know, you were trying to break it to reality. You know, we had there was good marketing this year, blah, blah, blah. Like, things were going well at the business when I first got there. And, you know, I was getting swept away in this, like, kind of, this new age movement, you know what I mean? Of, you know, your thoughts are basically, like, having a massive impact on reality. And it was kind of, it took me a bit to kind of grow out of that a bit, you know what I mean? Not that I think, you know, there's something about being able to change the tape in your own head with your thinking, and that produces action. That's the reality of it, but it's not, I don't think it's we're moving the tides or whatever with our brains or something, you know what I mean? But I just remember that you sowed the seed for me, just in that respect. And it was kind of awkward, I think, maybe because you had to kind of say, the way you had to step into it, to be like, you know, it's calm down there now, it's not really the universe, you know what I mean? Santa's not real, Donegan.
Well, like, I'll tell you that the absolute, like, how how I remember that morning, right? Because I think I arrived and you were standing outside, and I walked towards you and you were with your friend Paul, and you said, "What's the crack?"
Oh yeah.
And you were really loud, and I just thought to myself, how the fuck do I get rid of this guy? Like, how the fuck do I get, like, I need the help, but like, I gotta get rid of this fella. He's gonna do my fucking head in. And then the two of us stood at the door, and you asked me a couple of questions about the furniture and what we were doing. And I started to talk to you about it, and you went, like, your energy just changed completely.
Yeah.
And you just went into this, like, focused kind of, like, you know, like you're fucking wild and zany, right? Like, you know, you have this mad fucking energy, electric wiry shit, and then you have this kind of, like, you know, very kind of focused, thoughtful energy. And so we're standing at the doors, and you just start to kind of talk, like, kind of like about, like, you know, possibility and things, and how this could be done, and la-di-da-di-da and whatever. And I've always, like, you know, in a way, I've kind of, you know, I've got to examine myself and who I am. Like, I've put a lot of fucking square pegs in round holes, right? You are a square peg, you went into a round hole, right? And like, and what I mean by that is that our job was beneath you. Right, like, in terms of who you are and what you do. And so, like, you know, you were never going to stay at that, because that was never going to be a good direction for you in any way, shape or form. But at the same time, for me, what I like is the fact that, like, I've always felt that, like, more often than not, when somebody's not working, that their confidence is low, and that you need good confidence to get a job. You can bounce from it's why somebody they always say somebody with a job can get a job easier, like, you know, in a sense, because they're confident. They know that I can leave this one and go to that one, or whatever it is. So I knew, like, you know, I knew in my heart of hearts, like, technically you were wrong, like, in a way, because, like, it wasn't the right thing for you to be doing. But I loved the opportunity of, like, having a wild card type of person like you, with, like, you've got, like, fucking brilliant ideas mixed in with zany ideas as well. It's sorting the wheat from the chaff.
100%.
Like, you know,
that's 100%. What all I've been doing. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. You know, but I like that. And what I like, you know, and again, like, what I like about that is, like, if you take, say, John, like, who you know, who worked with me up until recently, like, he when he arrived, as I always say to John says stuff to me like, well, I don't know, like, because whatever. And I said, well, don't forget, when you turned up here, you were a fucking welder. Right? Like, now he can sell furniture. Oh, John just got a job running a fucking auction house in Sweden.
Did he?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. So, like, you know,
you're going to benefit from that as well.
Well, I might too. But the point is that, like, you know, like, the various people who've come along, like, some of them, you know, I like the fact that, like, they found their confidence, they found their mojo, they've moved off into something else, you know, and that they've progressed in something else, or that they progress, like John is starting out. Like, he's starting out on a journey that could be difficult for him, because, like, straight off the bat, apparently there's, like, you know, potential issues within the business. It's one of the reasons why he's been brought in, you know, and that's going to be, you know, like, that's how he manages that is.
But he has built up, you know, massive experience and good experience doing working, like, first orc interiors. I think he's done some really good work.
Yeah, no, he has. He's brilliant.
But just on that point, because this is very interesting, I remember I was always kind of thinking, my big thing at the time, when it came to selling furniture, was we need more pictures. We need to just get pictures. That's the most important. In my head, it was the most important thing. And I remember you asked me would I be willing to take pictures, and I kind of had this. I had a really bad reaction initially, and then I remember after you just kind of said, "Well, why didn't you just say I'll give it a shot?" And then I didn't really have an answer for that. You know what I mean? I think I was too caught up in.
We were coming at it from two different perspectives, right? Like, so, you know, and both were wrong, but, like, that's regardless. Like, you know, you were coming up with all of these great ideas. If we do this, if we do that, if we do the other, but, like, the caveat in all of them was, I'm actually not going to do any of these.
Yeah, that's the thing.
So you were winding me up.
Yeah.
Like, you know, winding me up like fucking, you know, where you go
I should
type
have
of
taken
shit.
more initiative.
And I was trying to, what I thought was going to happen was that you and I could ignite the fire
Yeah.
that could then pull in the fucking guy who takes the photos,
Yeah.
pull in the person who packs the boxes, and so on and so forth. That like because don't forget, you turned up for a fucking Christmas job,
Yeah.
and then you got fucking hired on the spot, right? And so like, you know, there goes a certain amount of money out of like anything I had, to like, you know, to try to kind of like build this thing, you know. So in a way, like I'm trying to kind of say to myself, like, you know, we need to sell more gear, bring in another punter to help us to help all of these ideas come to fruition. These ideas are great. Like, let's just make them come to fruition. But I couldn't do it all on my own.
I know. And
it's not that you weren't doing anything. It's just that was the point I was trying to make.
I never made that next step into taking it by the reins in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think I never I just kept the arm's length a bit. You know what I mean? And
you probably knew it was wrong anyway as well. So like, you know, it didn't matter.
Well,
like, did you go on to like, you know, how was your next gig?
My next gig with my friend, the first 2 jobs I made.
You ended up over in London a short while.
I was in
afterwards.
London, and that
at
was
some startup.
That was massively transformational with Chuck, who potentially might be listening, who I'm also building an app with at the moment. But I worked with him then for 5 months or 6 months, I think it was, and then I kind of went on to a bigger company, and you know, I was always. Yeah, I didn't realize how much kind of see, the other thing as well, when you have lots of freedom, it can be hard sometimes to decide what to do with your time in a way. Like if you imagine you had like your calendar was just cleared and you have to decide then what you're going to do with that free time. Like sometimes it's hard to figure out. I'm not saying that's just a part of it. But I just want to bring it back a bit, because one thing that I did get out of that was different than what I would have ever been exposed to was photography and the idea of symmetry. You know what I mean? And that idea of I think that's one of the most important things that stuck with me, that sort of emanated into and still into the work I do now. All the design work, all the website work, when I'm doing and I think it's the most fundamental thing to good design is kind of symmetry and your sort of units of measurement, and how like let's say if I have a gap here, that needs to be like the same here. You know what I mean? And that's all kind of a mathematical calculation. So these are kind of what I like about that is that they're kind of these rules that if they're like a checklist. If you follow these kind of basic rules, you'll probably get a good result. If you're taking pictures of furniture, you know, one good thing is to try get a nice symmetrical shot. If you have 2 chairs, that just looks nice. You know what I mean? And but that also applies into everything. And even just taking pictures on my phone and stuff. You know what I mean? I that kind of just, it's always like, most of the time I'm just looking for symmetry in a way.
My reasoning behind that was very simple, and that was that you know, I looked at what other people were doing that I liked. Right. And what I liked was a very clean background and a very kind of like, you know, really just what is the best looking part of this piece of furniture, right? As opposed to saying to the audience, oh, this is a piece of furniture. Like I'm trying to say, no, it's a really beautiful chair and it's got like these nice lines and it's got like these nice little details and so on and so forth. But what I used to call it was the fuck me moment, and that is when somebody's like scrolling endlessly through hundreds of pieces of furniture to try to find one. You have to make them stop at your image. They have to stop and go, fuck me, that's beautiful, you know? Because like I know people in the furniture game who you know, like they'll snap something outside their house, like there'll be rubbish on the ground, there'll be a bit of grass growing between the cracks, there'll be something coming down a drain pipe, or they'll take it at the back of a van, or there's just no care. If you show no care whatsoever, don't expect your audience to care. You know, if you really, you know, I was listening to you and you're talking about all of the things you're trying to do, like, you know, you have a fucking list that would kill
I know.
a fucking lot of people, right? So the thing is that's because, you know, you're trying to kind of, you know, put in the hard yards so that people can feel that, can kind of like resonate with the thing, react to the thing, you know, because you're in a like I was listening to I listened to who was it? A podcast earlier on this morning, coming in the car just to practice.
Yeah.
And it was your man Craig David was on. Yeah, very interesting actually, very interesting story. But
he was on someone else. It's not the Craig David show or something.
No.
He's like, what's Killian listening to?
No. He's rebuilding his career.
Okay, yeah.
I've lost track of where I was going with him though.
He was on it.
What was he doing? I'll come back to that. I've lost
completely. Me in?
Yeah, no. Yeah, no. That's good. Let's make it work. Oh yeah, no. You were talking about the putting in the hard yards and all of that kind of stuff. And what was your man? He anyway, basically an interesting one. Like he had a huge career. He lost a huge career, but he lost track of in between. He lost track of, like, he started to look at numbers. He started to look at, like, he was basically saying you're at number one. But, like, when you go to look and see if you're at number one, you can already tell you're going to be number three, like, in a couple of days. And that you get depressed and whatever, And, like, he just went back to the basics, just the fucking hard yards, just, doing, do everything right, to give it a bit of welly.
Yeah. It's just on this idea of perception and what we perceive. Like, for example, one thing, if I right now I'm using a webcam, but if I had a better camera, the perception that people would have of the podcast, because people are used to, let's say in this day and age, like HD, 4K, all this, the kind of, whatever's the kind of baseline sets the kind of tone. And there was a really interesting thing that happened when the first cameras were invented. Like let's say the very first camera, you take a picture with it, and you're like, everyone's like, this is amazing, look at this picture, and it's crap. You know what I mean? It's crap compared to now. Mm-hmm. Then the next iteration came along, and as soon as people seen the new pictures and they were comparing it against the other ones, the pictures that they thought were amazing before are now, that's the old, that's rotten now. It's not as good as the new, and we just have this. It's just the bias is forward moving, you know what I mean? I think it's kind of in our nature in a way.
I don't think enough people can tell the fucking difference. Like people talk about music and like, it's whatever.
Oh yeah, like 320 kbs.
Few people can tell the difference. Like it's just horseshit. Like,
see, but the thing is, it's not even. It doesn't have to be a tangible. No, I know what you're saying. Sometimes, with particular things, It is horseshit. You know what I mean? Like let's say the audio quality.
I'm not saying it's horseshit. I'm saying that it means a lot to a small amount of people. Like it really means something, and like there are certain people who can just pick out, like, because they're just so in tune with all of that kind of stuff. They can tell your foibles. They can tell your whatever. They can tell, like, oh, you made a mistake there. Your mistakes, like, or whatever. Like, so like they can tell, oh yeah, Donica dropped the ball there, like you hit a bum note, whatever.
Yeah.
You can't, like, and apparently, like in concerts, like, like somebody will come off a stage and say, oh, fuck, I totally fucked up there.
That's what I mean.
Maybe there's a breeze that they fucked up.
That always happens.
Maybe there's two people in the audience.
No one cares as much as you care, really, especially about your work. But it's the same. If you came in, you see like this beautiful couch here.
Yeah.
If you seen a potential issue, or if it was a real kind of famous artistic couch, your view. That's more like it's more like a view, the view of that builds up as you expose yourself to more of a particular thing and gain expertise in a given field.
I feel things, like, in a sense, like I see something and I just fucking, I have to have it. I want it. It means so, like I just get something. And so like it's it's gut instinct, like, and I just have got into the. But then, like, sometimes your gut instinct is like, how much is that? Somebody says it's 10 grand, and you go, yeah, okay, fair enough. Like, that ain't for me, but but I like it, and I can see why. But sometimes, like, you go and you say, how much is that, and like they go, it's like 100 quid, and you go, fucking great, like, I'm in the game.
But how much? If I told you that this was Elvis Presley's audio interface.
Funnily enough, it'd be like a lot of these things, like, I found out, like, not necessarily the hard way, but rare does not necessarily mean quick selling, right? Like, because again, the punter for that can be rare. Yeah. And then the flip side of it is that, like, you've also got, like, let's say you take let's say you take the nouveau riche for the crack, right? Like, so you've got like 10 guys, let's say 30, right? They all 10 of the first lads into Stripe, right? Because the two top lads are Irish, right?
Yeah.
And they're all billionaires, and none of them have any particular airs and graces, etc., right? You know, and let's say you've got like a sofa that costs 20 grand and you're looking to get 5 grand for it. They're not going to give a fuck about that. They want the thing out of a packet. Like, more often than not, they want to be the first person to sit on it. Like, it's absolutely totally. So there's expensive shit that can like kind of languish because the punters who want it, they want it new.
Yeah.
Right now, every now and then you're going to find a guy who's doing high end apartments, right? And they're for like Airbnb or something like that, and he wants the best of the best, but on a budget. But they're like super rare fish, you know. Like, you're not pulling them out of the kind of waters regularly, so it's not worth doing. So like, I have people ringing me all the time and saying, "Oh, I went into B&B Italia and I bought a 20 grand sofa and I'm looking to flog it on, and I maybe take 15. I wouldn't give them fucking 5, like, because I can't sell it.
It's just hassle.
I can't sell it. Like, it's just, I can't, because it's not what I do. I'm not, you know. And again, going back even further in this conversation about like, you know, us and our, exactly. And our like, you know, say our journey with the customer, like when they come through the door or whatever, is like, we're trying to kind of, you know, like, it is, we buy stuff that we like, or I buy stuff that I like, right? And immediately, like, I can market it, right? Because I'm into it. I'm really into it myself, right? And like, if you give me a sofa and its USP is that it's 20 grand, right? Like, you know, I can't get up for that. Like, you know,
you're just like, well, it's 20 grand.
Yeah, it's 20 grand. Like, you know, so yeah, but like, you know, is it just stunning? Like, is it just an incredible piece of furniture?
But then it comes back to the honesty as well.
Yeah, so I want something that like I've bought, that like I'm looking at and I'm
You
saying
need to
to
be able
somebody,
to look someone in the eye and say, this is like...
Absolutely, absolutely. And like, we had an interesting one there a while back, like, where we had a sideboard for 1,500 quid, and a lady came to me and she was looking and she said, I saw one earlier on this morning for 1,200 quid. And I said, you know, cool. Like, you know, that's your prerogative. Like, you know, you can go and buy that one if you want.
That's fine.
And she said, well, what's the difference? And I said, well, like, you know, ours has been through the workshops here. Everything is done. Everything works. Like, we've replaced this, we've done that, like, la, 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 la. I gave her the whole spiel. I said, you can return that here in 2 weeks' time if you don't like it. Like, you can have all your money back. We'll deliver it to your house. We'll install it, like, et cetera, la, 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 la. Right?
All day.
Yeah, she couldn't get her checkbook out quick enough. You know what I mean? Like, so she knew that she could save 300 quid down the road. But, like, that person had just pulled it out of wherever they pulled it out of and placed it for sale, maybe with a dusting. Like, because there's nobody doing what we do. Like, not in the market of the vintage hub as such. There's a guy in Limerick who does who will completely refurbish things, but he's working on a different level of furniture. And then some of the antique lads in town. But if you take the vintage hub style of furniture, there's very few or nobody doing what we do. Anyway, so I thought that was interesting. Like, you know, that she, you know, like, she challenged me on the thing. I was straightforward. I was like, you know, you can go and buy that one. Like, that's cool. Like, save yourself 300 quid. It's brilliant, etc., etc. But like, you know, there is a downside to some of these. And I had a very interesting email from a lady from Cork. She bought something from us again, and she said, the first vintage piece of furniture I bought from you, and it was such an amazing experience that I went out and I bought other pieces. Every one of those experiences was shite, and I came back to you, and it's been an amazing experience again.
Interesting.
You know?
And what do you think that's down to? More just...
That's because we give a shit. Like, we really give a shit. Like, if you're having a bad experience, like I said to you earlier about my reputation, like, I'll throw money at it. I'll throw money at it to a point where I will lose money on your thing to make sure that you're happy, or that you have no feelings. Like, I bought something in the UK recently, and I returned it because it wasn't what they said it was, and I put forward an argument saying this isn't what I said, and I had it analysed. Like, I fucking I banged to rights, right? And so they said, okay, we're going to give you nearly all your money back. Right. And I said, well, no, like, you mislabeled this, so you should give me all my money back. Right. But they looked like they were going to stay firm at, like, we're not giving you all your money back. It's £800, right? I'm out. And I put forward an argument again. And in between, I was thinking, right, I'm going to slate these on a Google review. Like I'm gonna be give them an honest review, because this was going to be a 5-star review. This was going great.
Yeah.
And it was a dreadful situation, but they were handling it brilliantly until this one person stepped in and said, no, we're holding back 800 quid from you. And then I put forward a second argument, and then they came back and they said, okay, we're going to give you all of your money. So I'm going to go on there, I'm going to review that business in the most positive fashion from a shite experience, because it's how you handle the shite.
Yeah.
That's where you know, are you dealing with a good business or not? You know, like in a sense, like they stepped up to the plate, they listened, they responded, they did like whatever. Okay, I had a good outcome, so I'm happy.
Yeah.
But I had a good outcome because they didn't have a leg to stand on, and that was proven, and they accepted that. They didn't fight it and just say, oh,
which can happen, you know what I mean? And I think that's very important in that.
Our best reviews should come from those who've had a bad time with us. Like in theory, like, you know, like the handful of people who've had something bad has happened. But no, they should be on Google saying this is like fucking top drawer, because they went to the nth degree, something happened and I wasn't happy, like things get damaged in transit, or you know, there's some little quirk that like happens that like, you know,
it just throws it all into the
like a lady there came out to us just before Christmas, a week to go before fucking Christmas, spots a dining table that's absolutely needs the whole shebang thrown at it, right? Like nothing is done on it. I want that before Christmas. Can you deliver it like within 5 days? So we turned it around really quick, got it into her house, and it has a creak in it, right? Like a little creak. So if you lean on it, like little creak. And she just said, I can't live with that. And we took it out of the house and we gave her all her money back.
I get you now.
She should be fucking straight to Google.
100%. They didn't try to, like, they could have tried to swindle me in a way, or not swindle me, but just kind of say, well, it's in your house. That's kind of...
We could have easily said to her, you can have it after Christmas. There's no way we're going to... Like, we've got plenty to be doing in this run up to Christmas. And this is not part of our thinking, but we dropped everything, threw her in because we're thinking, oh, Christmas dinner, you know, et cetera, you know, like, and this is an important time of the year.
That is how you step yourself apart. And that's the thing I don't think many businesses or people in the service industry don't understand, is that if you just go a little bit extra and you try to make it, there was this really good term in this book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, I think it was, where he talks about everything should be win-win. You know what I mean? Let's say you're unhappy, I'm unhappy. Okay, we have to figure out our unhappy, but I can't just win and you lose, because that's not good. That's not good for our future engagements. It's not good as a whole, as a net total of happiness that we could get from this interaction. So if you're going into a situation and you're not thinking, I need to come out on top. Like if I was going in haggling with you, the most important thing to me is that I get the price that I wanted. You know what I mean? And that's all that's important to me. Then the way I interact, I'm just going to be looking for things like, geez, that's that little bit of mark there or whatever, you know what I mean? Would you not sort that out?
Don't ever do that. If you're listening, don't ever do that.
It must hurt, you know what I mean?
Oh, well, no, it's just...
But you're probably as upfront.
Just gets your heckles up, like you're not going to fucking... that is not going to end well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In what sense?
No, it doesn't. Like, it's just, you know, like... all dealers, like, and this one really gets me when I deal with another dealer, right? Like, really the question is, how much is it, right? Like, so in my mind, if I am a dealer and I'm looking to buy something, I look at that thing and I say, okay, in my business, that's arbitrary number, that's 1,000 quid, right? I need to pick it up at this number, so I know my number already off the bat. And I say to the guy, how much is it? Like, let's say for the crack, right, it's 400 quid. And I say, how much is it? And he goes, it's 300. Then I go, great, you know, probably won't even haggle, buy the thing. He goes, 450. I say, we're a little bit off, you know, can you come down a bit to me? Blah, 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 blah. He says, say 400, you know, you might go, any chance you do for 350? You know, there's a game plan for each answer as such, right? But what I don't do is go and take it apart, because I know they know. And they have priced it accordingly because they know what's wrong with it. And I know that that's not a kind of for me personally, it's just not how I do things.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to go and kind of try to knock it and whatever. And I hate it when it happens to me. I just hate it. It's not that I hate it, right? It's all a game.
Yeah.
I can take it as a game, but internally,
It's just like,
internally you're thinking, and the funny thing about it is that everybody thinks they're the first person to say something to you, right? So like, you know, there's something like, let's say for you that like you've heard and you just go, oh fuck's sake, not again.
Yeah.
You know, and there's so many clunky like fucking things that people do. You know, and like there's stuff like where they give the game away straight off the bat and they try to pull it back, and I love the psychology.
The psychology.
I love the whole time, but we don't bring psychology to bat, so to speak. But what we try to do is just leave a kind of like a space that's just a comfortable, open space where you're, you know, making your decision in the now, like versus, you know, shoehorn you in, like kind of get behind you and kind of force you and talk, like, you know, does my bum look big in this? No, it doesn't. When clearly your bum looks big in it, right? Like, you know, we are not.
This isn't
like,
going to fit in your sitting room.
We are not. Like, we're not. That is definitely not us. And so, like, you know, I try to, and like, I listen to podcasts and I listen to people talking about selling, etc., etc. And you know, I just kind of like, I just feel like. That the way that we go about it is the better way. Like for us, like for who we are and for our own anxieties. Like I am a very anxious person in general. I get very anxious about, you know, do you like the thing you bought? Did it get there on time? Is the transaction good? Do you feel you got value for money? Like la 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 la. Like, you know, and I always send an email to somebody saying, "Are you happy?" And I always just think to myself, "No, they fucking hate it. Like this is going to be come back." And then you get one back and it says, "It's brilliant. I love it. Thank you so much." And you're just,
and it's like,
move on to the next one. Yeah, you're off the naughty step.
But there's something about, I think, if you, it's like, it's a bit like selling your soul in a way. If you wouldn't be able to do the salesy stuff, as in not the salesy stuff. Like sales, there's different ways of approaching it. Your approach is, this is the reality of the situation. Here it is, and we can talk about that. And that's just the reality of it. And then there's obviously there's a different type of salesperson where it's a game. That person comes in, like I was in Lanzarote, and it's so I love calling them out.
I tried Morocco.
But they call you into the restaurant. And they're like, oh, very special night tonight, you know. And I'm just, you know, taking the piss. We're the special ones tonight. And they do all the stuff for you, free shots, because it was for a stag, so there's a massive group. But as soon as you start mentioning things of what they're doing, they love it because they're playing the game. It's a big con. I found Lanzarote. It was like you find one lad in the restaurant, the next lad's in the nightclub trying to sell you nitrous oxide in a balloon. It'd be the same kind of big kind of con, but. There's something, even with this podcast, if I was to start, there's lots of content that I consume, but when people start going, stick around to the end of the episode, end of this, and I'll tell you the real secret, or
Jesus, fucking InfoWars. Have you listened to InfoWars?
Sometimes I watched it when I was stoned.
Oh fuck me! I was coming back from the States and I downloaded an episode of it for the crack. Because, like, just to understand whatever his name is, and basically, like, they kept saying, Alex will be along in 15 minutes to tell you why such and such is fucked.
Looking for you.
Yeah, and in the meantime, how about buy this house in this community that's full of guns with a big wall around it?
It's a safe neighborhood.
And there was all this shit like, buy your cans of rations, like, that'll last 10 years in case the
Everybody knows the apocalypse is coming tomorrow.
Fuck me. Fuck me.
Come to Alextown. Yeah, that whole
Jesus.
That is so sleazy.
I hate that shit.
It hurt like because the part that I think really rubs me the wrong way is because I know what you're doing, and I hate that you're trying to pretend that that's not what you're doing in a way.
Yeah. But you're never going to, like, you know. Life is a game, right? Like, and at the end of the game, you face the big boss and you take on the big boss and you may survive or whatever it is. But not everybody gets to that level. Like, let's say it's a 22 level game to get to the big boss or whatever the fuck it is. You know, some people are just going to get to level 6 and that's it. They're just staying at level 6, like, or level 8. And there's a couple of shysters who manage to get a few levels higher than they really should, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Like, but you know, I just don't think you're getting to the end with that type of crap. Yeah. I would hope that you're not, like, you know, really, because it's soulless, like, you know, it's pure soulless shite.
How
like,
can you live with yourself?
Like, plenty of people can be duped into buying something, 100%, but they're never going to love that. And again, what pays dividends for us, right? And our approach is that, like, we had, again, another lady comes through the door one day and she says, my brother was here and he bought something from you and he said you guys are really good, right? And she said it with such attitude, right? It was like, I've fucking heard the Kool-Aid's good round here and I've come to fucking try the Kool-Aid for myself, right? And so I started talking to her and this, that and the other, and she's really like, there's just a wall like there of like everything I'm saying is bouncing back. And then about like kind of 20-25 minutes into it, she says, I'd like to buy that coffee table, you know, and we were off, you know. Jeez. So like the thing is that, like, you know, it's word of mouth is the thing that really works with us. And that's where, like, you know, again, I've had friends in this game come to me and say, I had somebody in the shop the other day for an hour and they didn't buy something, right? If you gave, and this is what I said to John when John came to start, when John started in sales, I said to him, what you're selling is yourself. You're not selling a sideboard. You're not selling a sofa. You're not selling anything else. You're selling yourself. Like, you're selling, I am a good person to do business with. I'm an honourable person. I will look after you. You're not going to find that I don't pick up the phone when the shit hits the fan, if it does, or something, whatever it happens to be. And so, like, if that person comes to your shop and they spend an hour there, and at the end of the day, they walk out the door and they think, this guy's fucking great, like, Donica's fucking the business, I love Donica, like, blah, 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 blah. They're going to say to everybody that they meet, Donica's brilliant, right? Like, you could get 5 sales out of that 1 hour.
Yeah.
You may never even know that. Like, I had a woman who pulled into the yard one day, spent a good bit of time with me, arrived just as I was closing up. I gave her all the time she wanted, etc., etc. She drove off out the door. Didn't see her for 3 years. She pulls in there 8 weeks ago, says, I finally have a project I can use something from you for. Show us what you've got, right? Like, you know, she and I could tell from her the way she said it is that she's been waiting for a reason to come back. You know, which is great.
Yeah.
Which means you're not wasting your time. Like, give people time, be yourself with people, you know, and that will pay dividends. Like, you know, 100%.
That's the whole thing. There, I think, is that it's short-term thinking. Would think, I'm wasting an hour here, or I didn't get the sale, I didn't get this.
I talk as much shite as you talk.
Yeah.
So an hour with me, no problem.
That's what I mean. You know what I mean? Exactly. Yeah. Like, we love talking. Like, exactly. The more questions, the better. And you're always actually gaining something, especially if you're in the act of the thing that you do.
Well, going back to psychology, right? So, like, when you're talking to people, like, so for example, like you in this, right? You're going to see when something hits right home and resonates, and you're going to see, and then that's going to stay in the, you know, whatever, the mind map, whatever it is, blah, 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 right? And you're going to see that, and you're going to see that works, and it resonates with an audience, and it resonates in some way, shape, or form, or that was a pile of shite, like that.
Yeah.
Get rid of that one out of the playbook. Exactly, right? Yeah. And it's the same with me going around with people. Like, you're talking to them and you're saying something, and you can see that something, like, actually quite often with people you can see their pupils dilate and whatever, like, because, like, we're close enough to see that. And, like, if you say something that's to somebody and it just, like, fucking hits them and they just go boo, and, like, you can see it, right? So the thing is,
what, you don't have any money, you can't afford it, are you poor?
No. What I mean is that that's resonated with them, whether they buy it or not. Like, that it was like, you know, that this it's going to make your life better, and you can see, boom, they think, yeah, that's going to make my fucking life better, right? You know, whatever it is, right? Like, but you can just see when something goes in, and you can see when something hits the wall and comes back at you. And so the whole time, like, while you're doing these hours, like, let's say an hour long chit chat with somebody, you know, really ultimately you're refining, like, you know, you're refining your whole thing. You're refining your spiel, you're refining your, like, you know, what people hear, etc., right? So, like, again, you know, it all sounds very clinical, but, like, in reality, like, when you say something to somebody and you see that it goes down like a fucking fart in a spacesuit, like, you think, I'm not saying that again. Like, I'm not getting any reaction to that. Like, I thought that was, like, you know, that was worth saying, but no, it's not. You know, so like, from that perspective, you've got 1 hour with the person where they're buying into you or not, and you've also got 1 hour where you're realizing what I say has resonance or does not have resonance in whatever way it is, you know? And it's, you know, and to say that they wasted your fucking time is a load of bollocks.
But that is the essence of experience. It's trying something and responding, but you need to have that awareness though. You need to kind of have that awareness. If you want to move quicker, you need to be able to react quickly to change, and you need to be able to perceive when things are working and when things aren't, in whatever way you think that is.
Well, you can tell if somebody is warming to you or if they're allergic to you. You know, and you do get people who come in and they are allergic to you, and that's just it. Like, there's just no, because they're just not going to come back off that position. Like, quite often, men with their wives, you know?
Yeah! That's a totally different dynamic, though. You know what I mean? They can't, you know what I mean? You have to be the man or whatever.
Oh, it's absolute horseshit. Like, it's
I've been finding
horseshit.
sometimes in the gym, I've been working out the back, but like if it's like more females than men, like suddenly I'm like upside down doing push-ups or something, you know what I mean? We have the instinct to react to a female presence as a man. Maybe I'm just speaking for myself. Is to kind of show off a bit, or to just, it turns it up a bit more, you know what I mean? Like Will Smith, you know what I mean? Getting that slap in, you know what I mean? Basically, like, just looked at his wife and just thought, geez, I got to do something here, you know what I mean? Because I need to step up and be a man. Because I think women are kind of the arbiters of...
Your Jordan Peterson, your favourite Jordan Peterson today could answer that question for you.
In what way?
Because I listened to his thing too, as well, while I was doing a bit of work. And he has some guy on who's a mathematician or something like that. And he's explaining everything mathematically. But effectively...
Roger Penrose.
I can't remember. He had a cocaine addiction or
no,
something like that.
Not his lad, no.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know the whole ins and outs of it, but ultimately he was talking about status in men, and that's what you're going for there in the gym, and that is status. You're putting your status above all the other lads, you know, and that status, you know, that status resonates with women because they're looking for, like, you know, the higher status males, you know, in the animalistic fucking senses that we all still have.
Yeah, like from a kind of biological perspective, I think. You know, and I think we have to just recognise it, that women are the selectors for who gets to basically procreate or not.
Well, your man said that they have a lot more to lose, and that's important.
Oh yeah, massive. Yeah,
you know, because they become a lot more vulnerable with, like, a child, having the child.
If they get with some like shy bag who's just not going to be able to defend them at the cave or when the bear's at the door. You know what I mean? That's it. They need, so like all the kind of and it's not even conscious, some of the things. You know what I mean? We're playing these games that our brains have kind of evolved to play, that we're not really, we don't have to be super conscious of, but we know that we like certain things and characteristics of men, like birds. You know, when they do that little dance, that's to basically kind of show that, you know, you're reliable and capable of, you know, a complicated task, whatever. So that potentially, if you're a good bird dancer, you might be able to defend me. You're more likely to defend me than the fucker that can't dance, it's just like, whatever, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing your little thing or whatever.
The pigeon who nests in our garden then has duped his missus into believing he's a good fucking dancer.
But then there's the other side as well. When you do, I think, did you see the Tinder swindler?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
So
fuck me.
I know that's just horrific. But there's a percentage of the population that are genuine psychopaths. I think, you know what I mean, or not even that. I think it's just a numbers game.
But if you look at it, like, you know, that fascinates me, right? And that is, like, you know, up the top of the food, like, of the like. So for example, years ago, I was at dinner with a, like, well-known, very, very, very wealthy Irish guy, right? And there's about like 8 people at the table. Somebody comes over to the table over onto my side. She's very chatty. She's very friendly. He's sitting here, so she's got to talk across me as such. And like he's super paranoid. Like, he's probably the most paranoid person I've ever met in my life. And he's chatting away to her, and then something happens to his right, and he kind of excuses himself, and he goes to the right to talk to this person, and she just fucking stops talking. And I'm saying, like, I'm blah, 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 blah. And, like, it's like somebody switched her off. And then he turns back round and she's back on. And then the thing is that, like, between the jigs and the reels, knowing this guy over the short amount of time I knew him, he had put up all of these walls to keep the snakes out, but all the fucking snakes were in.
That was too late.
That was the problem.
Yeah.
Everybody he knew was a snake.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that I could see, like, half of them were just couldn't be faker, you know? And so the thing is like, you know, we're all like like the Tinder swindler and let's say Trump and various other people. Like, there's all, well, a thing I heard recently, which I thought was funny, was like, a fool and their money are soon partying, right? And so, like, effectively, like, you know, it's are soon parted is the norm or whatever. But anyway, basically, you know, so people take advantage of that. There's people who are perfectly positioned to take advantage of that. And so I would say, if you look across, like, you know, let's say everybody goes to San Moritz at such and such a time of year, or you go to the south of France at such and such a time of year, and you can have all of these people sitting at these tables swigging champagne, blah, 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 blah. There's a percentage of them haven't got a pot to piss in.
100%.
Yeah, but they're fucking living at large. And are they wrong? In a way, like, you know, that Tinder swindler, like, you know, he's had some life. I'd say he was hyper anxious through it. I'd love to have seen the inside of his head, but I'd hate, like, was he at peace doing those things?
That's what I mean.
Did he enjoy them? Was he in the now? Was he present?
But you, as a non-psychopathic human with empathy, I think we can't, when we try to understand what it'd be like to be that person, I don't think they even care if people get hurt. Like, if you hurt your leg, I'd be like, oh, you're right. Or if you banged your knee, we kind of are able to. But
conversely, are they enjoying shit? Can they enjoy shit? Like, you know, apparently, like they say, like people say, they've never heard Trump laugh. You know, I don't know if there's any. There could be video out there of Trump laughing. I don't know, but like,
there has to be something that they're aiming to want more of. I think, you know what I mean. I think Trump status. Yeah, I think status is it's something that we all kind of gravitate towards, and maybe that's all that's left.
Yeah, but you meet enough flutes in your life to know that, like, regardless, like, you meet people and you think, I respect this person, I don't respect this person. Like, you can connect to people if you take out the trappings. Like, if you're meeting somebody and that person has, like, you know, a flash suit and a flash watch and flash car and flash, and you allow all of that to paint the picture of who this person is, then fair enough. Like, you might have met a few fuckwits that you think are decent people, but the reality is, you know, you can often meet somebody who's got all of that and you just think, God, that person's a fucking fluke, like, you know, an absolute fluke. Like, when I was delivering furniture in London, like, years ago, and going to all the best addresses in London, I met some people who I didn't know how they fucking even remembered how to tie their own shoes. Like, they were dimwits, but they were fucking loaded dimwits. And like, they were, you know, I don't know, like, I just, the mind boggles sometimes. And this brings me back to another point, another tangent.
Lovely.
Right? Great. Right. So the thing is that I think that quite often that we can be an expert in one thing and we can be proficient in 2, 3, 4 things, but yet, you know, we can think that we fucking know everything because, you know, that one thing that we do, like, let's say, is kind of like, you know, other people in society deem it to be important or whatever. So, like, let's say, you know, one of the guys I met in London ran a property company, right? So obviously he just understands property, right? But he's a complete fucking dingbat other than property.
Yeah.
But like, if you have a conversation with them, he's just gonzo.
Yeah.
He's like Lurch. Like, he's like there's just funny. Like, I didn't get it. But anyway, so the thing is that I think a lot of us, I think we get, I think that we are a lot less sophisticated than we think we are generally, right? And I think that's because we think that we're better at a lot of things than we really are, and we also put a lot of whatever you call it, like we put a lot of status on, say, you know, like a guy who's fucking brilliant at economics talking about politics or talking about some other thing like that he's got a vague notion of, right? But 9 times out of 10, like, let's say Ukraine, for example, right? Like, you know, there are people out there who just understand from the get-go, this happened, that happened, the other happened, and and here we are now, and this is why this is happening, and this will be the net result of it. The rest of us just think Putin wanted fucking Ukraine, and he sent his lads in, and that's all there is to it. Yeah, exactly, right? And so, you know, there's people all over the place pontificating over all of these things. Yeah. But what the fuck are the nuances of it? I'd love to know, what are the nuances of that situation? Like, who has those nuances? Like, what are those nuances? Because it must be nuanced.
Oh, 100%.
In some way, shape or form. And there has to be. It's not that there's a rationale for Putin.
Yeah, exactly.
But there has to be something that's just not like, I'm just going to go in and fucking trash this country.
Yeah. That's what I mean, yeah. And I think there's a really good YouTube channel I watch, Caspian Report, that has gone into kind of the historical significance of, you know, the USSR and Ukraine and the previous and what Putin kind of... But the point is that there is nuance. There's always nuance.
There's always nuance.
We always think...
But on Twitter and on fucking social media, right? You know, you've got the fucking armchair generals get in and they just fuck the whole thing up.
See, it's easier to get behind a side than it is a sort of central nuanced position, I think. It's easier to get people up in arms. Imagine I'm like, you know, I want a bit of like universal healthcare, and I also want people to bear arms, or whatever the two opposing parties' teams are, or whatever. And I think, you know, there's good ideas on both teams, or whatever. But you need to get people riled up. We're very, I think, tribal. You know what I mean? I think even if you see it in football a lot. Well, not a lot, but it's just part of football. Is that there's two teams, and if you are on one team and I'm on the other team, we both see a tackle, and I'm looking at it from my team, you're looking at it from your team. I'll be like, that was a great tackle, and you'll be like, that was a terrible tackle. You know what I mean? Because we're looking at it through that non-objective lens. Now we've picked a side. Now we have a dog in the fight in a way, and it served us. I think this tendency to, you know. And it's kind of what racism and everything stems out of, because it's easier to kind of, as humans, you know, evolved, you know, throughout the world, knowing that, you know, the people that kind of look like you, looking out for them was actually beneficial to your genes and your ability to pass on your genes. So you can kind of see how these things evolve, but we need to try to transcend that and look at it and realize that I think that's a massive component in a lot of our discourse, or what you're saying is wrong with our discourse, is that we're too on a side. We and we want to win as well. Well, I like to I'm not saying I'm not above any of this as well. I'm just saying that there's probably too much of I just feel people are willing to say. There's some people that would never say there's anything right about the other side. Like they'll never admit it. Even if you're like, but what about he did this? He saved a child. You know, was that not good?
But Tony Holohan is a prime example of that. Yeah. He was responsible for something, I don't know the full ins and outs of it, that like was fucking incredibly negative, and responsible for something that could be perceived as positive, and yet at the same time there's tribes there for. No, this guy's a fucking...
Depending on what side you pick, but no one's thinking...
You're goosed, like you're completely goosed. You can't live beyond 10 without like having completely fucked up and have something that's going to get dragged up, and
exactly,
you know, unless you're like, you know, from the cradle, like the KGB or whatever it is have taken you and just manufactured a life for you that can never come out. Everybody's fucked up somewhere.
Yeah, but everyone's because there's a million ways to look at the world, and we do think... we're just biased to thinking that our way is right most of the time, you know what I mean? But if we could somehow just realise that, there's nuance in everything, and it's okay to be nuanced, and it's okay to... Because I think what happens is people get invested in a certain idea. Like, imagine global warming, or even flat earth. The flat earth people are... like so convinced, and I've watched documentaries and I've seen the people.
Did you see the documentary where at the end they prove it's
I know
the earth is round
and they just like your man's like, oh, we need to do it again. We need to do it again. But this is what I mean. How delusional. It's like, oh yeah, we'll do the test and we'll see. And then when the test wasn't working, we need to change the test.
that whole thing now of like, you know, when you find somebody who's on like 7 conspiracies and like, you know, and like I like to look at it. I like to look at it in the round and say, you know, something here is correct.
Yeah.
Right? But it can't all be
correct. Can't be
everything is obscured like by the whatever it is, 100%. You know? And so like God love the poor fuckers who really know for a fact that like the earth is flat.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And it's completely goosed by
and the moon is hollow.
The next one along, that's whatever it is, you know?
It's like if you...
The poor fuckers.
You have to take them all on, you know what I mean? I think, there's some conspiracies that I enjoy. This isn't really a conspiracy. I think the pyramids and some of the structures around ancient Mesopotamia and even Göbekli Tepe. Actually, I put that there, like not thinking that I was going to get into this. But this, like, Graham Hancock. You've maybe heard of him. He has this whole idea that there was a civilization probably about 12 or 15,000 years ago that got wiped out by a cataclysmic event, that they're showing there was an asteroid impact that melted, let's say, glacial ice, and it caused a massive flood throughout the lands. There's kind of these ripples, and there's more probably to our story as humans on this planet than, you know, whatever the story of the pyramids. It's, I don't know, it could be, let's just say it's 5,000 years ago, over a 50-year period, they built these structures, and it was all with wood and stone. I'm not even saying that. I'm not saying the technology wasn't whatever technology they're using, but there's some people that are just. I think there's more to it, like Easter Island. All these.
Did you see the mathematician who built Stonehenge on by himself?
No.
He worked out like how to just use the weight of the stone itself, like to upright
itself.
Did it himself.
Killian, don't be telling me this.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure he's on his own. It's a while since I've seen it, but I'm pretty certain he's on his own, and it's all about like moving it on. Now he's got everything in the center, right? So I didn't see the kind of getting it from the quarry to the place. Yeah. But he'd worked it out that like using its own weight against itself, that it could that one stone can like kind of, you know, pull another one up or move another one, or it can slot into the ground or whatever it was. I can't remember, but if you look it up, I'm pretty certain there's a convincing argument. Yeah. And I didn't look any further to see
Stonehenge.
Is he fucking around with?
Fair enough, Stonehenge, right? But if you look at the pyramids, and if you look at the pyramid itself, isn't actually a pyramid. It's made of 4 smaller kind of. It's like a pyramid with. It's hard for me to explain, but each side actually goes in a little bit, and it's kind of designed in this really kind of complicated way. And the meter. The unit of measurement that we use, it's kind of encoded into the pyramids, because we actually base that off something to do with the sun and some other weird bullshit, right? But there's all this cool maths in it, right? And there's a kind of astrological alignment, and you know, there's this kind of, even the Sphinx, the weather erosion on the Sphinx, the limestone. You know, if it is weather erosion, which some people do say it is, then it would have had to exist in a time period where there was rain in the Sahara. Let's just say that's one example. But now, I'm not saying
but surely it's got to be sand. Sand and fuck that shit.
But limestone erosion is particular because the water interacts with the carbon, and that's all my secondary school geography goes. All right. But there is. It's like when I look at 9/11, right? I think, all right, fair enough. These buildings. Like, this is definitely possible. There's no whistleblowers, so like it'd be nearly like there's whistleblowers about stupid things in companies that you can't even keep simple stupid secrets. But then I see something like Tower 7, right? Well, I don't even know. It just looks like a suspicious thing to me, and maybe I don't know the full story about it, but it just kind of, this little building kind of just caught fire during the whole 9/11 thing and just kind of collapsed. And I just feel that to me. And then with the pyramids and stuff, the bit that I feel is a little bit suspicious is that there's these walls, and the masonry in them is such that they're kind of these irregular shaped rocks, kind of build walls with, and you couldn't even get like a credit card to them. They're so kind of precise and so close and so well put together that I just think, no, and then what am I saying when I say I don't know what the answer is, but I just think that there's more to our story here on the planet.
Let's take the pyramids, right? Like, and then let's fast forward through time where some guy, right, like sitting under a tree, let's say for the crack, decides that he can take your image, send it somewhere miles and miles and miles away, rearrange it on a screen, and people can look at it, and you go, fuck off. So if he can do that, like, then you can fucking build a pyramid in the fucking 5,000 years ago or whatever. Like, the people just have these amazing brains. There are people who come along with these incredible brains, and they can just see things and understand things, and they do, like the amount of things that are found out by accident or by whatever it is. And the guy who built the pyramids, that could have been his 10th project. And the fucking other 9 disappeared into God knows where.
But the story that, I'm not saying it's definitely possible that humans did it because they exist. And that's what they've done.
But somebody can work that out mathematically,
100%.
even if they're doing it on fucking
100%.
wax.
And yeah, we actually, as humans, the brains that we have now, we've had for the last 100,000 years or so. But the story of the pyramids is that suddenly, out of nowhere, civilization has sprung up, and then these pyramids got built over a short period of time. And I just think, from my extensive research, that it goes back a bit further. And I actually think some of the stories, like the stories of the flood and all these stories of even the Jesus story, is kind of tied up in Horus, and even the three wise men.
Let me ask.
Hold on. Let's talk about the alien.
Have you ever had like what you thought was like a really brilliant idea, and this is definitely the reason why this exists, and you can argue it, like, for argument's sake, and I believe that happens all of the time now and did back then, and that is that somebody just has this perception of something, they're convinced it's right, and they can put an argument around it. I saw a thing there recently where a cop was being interviewed, and the guy said to him, like, if I was up for murder charges, I'd just tell them everything, like, where I was and whatever. And he said, no, don't do that. He said, because they'll take exactly where you were and construct the fucking story around it. They'll work backwards from that story, right? So somebody has like got this like perception. They've come up with like some sort of mad equation in their life. They've had a couple of spliffs, as we all have had, and thought, oh yeah, like
this is great.
That absolutely, and you can argue convincingly. Like, I'm pretty fucking certain you could fucking.
But I don't even think
come
I'm
up with
saying
some wacky
anything
concept.
that
You should become a flat earther.
I think I could do it well. I could actually make a lot of money doing it, I think.
Yeah.
Like, do you know your man in the movie?
Yeah.
Who's going around with a t-shirt?
I thought that was interesting. That you can't get out.
Yeah.
Because it's not worth your while getting out.
There's some lads that's making a killing off it. But with the pyramid stuff, I don't think I'm saying something that's completely unreasonable.
Well, I know nothing about them, so I can't.
So your first instinct is to say you're lying.
My first instinct is just that there's weird shit that has happened.
There's more shit, yeah.
There's mad stuff that happens. I met somebody there a while ago whose house burnt down because she was reading a book and put them down beside her bed, her glasses on top of her book, and her whole fucking house burnt down. Now that's what I'm told, and I believe it. Like, weird shit happens.
Is there any conspiracies? Not conspiracy. Like, what about the JFK stuff? Have you looked into that a little bit?
Like,
did you see this Roger Stone or your man? He did a documentary. I think it's on Netflix. Recently.
I think the JFK thing. I think, like, in fairness to the mafia, if they were involved, they kept it pretty tight and tight-lipped. But then maybe lots of maybe people who were involved along the way are no longer with us and breathing. But I do, the JFK thing. I don't know. I don't know enough about it, but like, I would say that there's a very good story at the back of that. Yeah,
I think, I
believe that there's a lot of. Like, definitely, like, the American government can come in and muddy the waters of fucking anything.
See, that I like. These are, people think the worst kind of conspiracies, I think, are the ones where they give control of their own lives, and they kind of blame the structures that be for the reason that things are. It's because these people in a little boardroom, whatever, are in complete control. They think, like, let's say with the COVID stuff, when the COVID stuff was coming in, they thought, look, we told yous. But then when it actually goes away, and you know we actually are, maybe you could say that the response wasn't the most ideal response, whatever. But it wasn't like they were looking to control.
No, they fucked up. Like they definitely fucked up. But nobody fucking knew what they were doing, and everybody's shouting at you like, fucking fix it, do fucking something. You've got to do something. Like the amount of the pressure. But let's go back to conspiracy theorists for the crack, right? I don't know the name of any conspiracy theorists, right? But if you've got a favourite one, have you got a favourite one? Alex Jones. Okay, so
David
Alex
Icke.
Jones. Well, no, let's not take Alex Jones because he's making money out of it.
David Icke, although I love listening to David
Icke. Is Icke making money out of it? I think he had a come to Jesus moment, didn't he? Is it Icke who was on?
He was on. Somebody was on Northern Ireland TV show,
and somebody said you're about to have a heart attack.
He was wearing turquoise. He thought he was the second coming of Jesus.
No, so I think I could be David Icke. I'm not sure, right? Somebody was presenting. I think he might have been a sports presenter or news. I can't remember what. And he's doing a piece to camera, and somebody rang the BBC. I'm not certain if it's Icke, and said, "Tell that man to get to a cardiologist ASAP. He is about to have a heart attack." And he went, and he was, because apparently you get this little white ring around your eye or some. You'd have to look it up.
Yeah.
It's years since
That's your research.
Exactly. It's years since, well, it could be David Icke. So he had a come to Jesus moment that whatever. But let's take a punter who's not making, let's take Jim Core. I don't know if he's making any money out of it, but let's take Jim. Because Jim's certainly suffering reputationally from it, right?
Who's Jim Core?
Jim, we was part of the Cores, the music family, three sisters and a boy.
The Rothschilds. No, I'm joking. You haven't heard of the Rothschilds
I know who they are, but I don't know what Jim Core has
to do. The Cores and the Rothschilds. Is that what we're going to here?
Anyway,
give me the Cores.
No, I just want somebody who's not making money out of a conspiracy, right? That's the point,
that
right?
just love it.
Exactly. So somebody who's just... Exactly, right? So what I was going to ask you is, we're all bamboozled by the conspiracies and by the chit-chat and the this, that and the other, right? But what is it all about? What is it about with the person who's fucking standing there convinced that the world is fucking them and fucking the rest of us? And why is it that they're trying to tell you? What are they getting from that? Why is it that everywhere they look, and this is a question, I'm not trying to answer it.
Yeah.
Why is it everywhere they look there is a conspiracy and et cetera, et cetera? It's better to kind of because ultimately they should probably be trying to learn the fucking piano or play the guitar or figure out how to make a podcast or something that's kind of like they're trapped in this thing. And maybe they're making mates from it. Maybe they've got loads of communication and friends and they feel whatever, but maybe they feel a bit anxious. Maybe they're whatever. But what are they trying? Where are they going on their journey with this shit?
I think...
And why?
Well, one thing off the bat is just a sense of meaning. The QAnon people thought they were all part of something bigger, because it's like a religious kind of ethos. You know what I mean? This is one element of it that I think is that we all aspire to have meaning in our life and to be part of something. We go to concerts, music concerts, we have families, we do all sorts of things and games to kind of create this kind of meaning and be more than what we are. So are
they vulnerable? Is it vulnerable?
I think they haven't found. It's like an easy thing. It's like, imagine instead of having to work and get a job or whatever, it's like a video game. The quick feedback loop. Instead of having to wait ages, put in loads of work, get your dopamine hit, you can instead play a game and it tricks your brain into the same circuits. So I think it's an easy out, and it gives people a reason to kind of... I had one friend, and I had this... At first, I was just batting everything he said down. I was like, come on, this is... I was trying to tell him, but then I just realised I need to come at it from a different angle. And I just go, you're obviously capable of things. You're obviously... You're the way you're thinking about this, the layers... He went so deep. Mm-hmm. And I just said, you're going to die one day, and you would have just... you committed so much time to this for what? Just so you know what's you're what's the why? What does it mean? What does it mean for your existence that you just let yourself be pulled into this instead of trying to do something else with your time? And it's like, what, I don't know what it is about it, but
they need to figure that out. You need to figure that out. I need to figure that out. I.e., you know, what am I doing? I told you, I think, did I say at the start of this, like that I'm kind of, like if you break your career into 3 sections, I'm heading into the third and final section, and I need to make that work for me. I've done other things that I felt were more for other people and whatever. And so I need to figure out what makes me happy. And like, funnily enough, like I was sitting back and I was trying to think about, and I maybe left it a little bit late, like at the weekend, and it was my daughter's 21st, so I didn't have a lot of time. But when I started to try to kind of think about myself, right? Initially, there's a wall of questions there that are like, you know, well, why do you feel this way, and why is this, that, and the other, and whatever. There's not a fucking shitload of answers.
yeah.
It's just a wall of questions, and I kind of didn't really get like too far beyond that, because I feel that there's a protective structure in there that like is kind of like, you know, like how deep do I want to go? So like tangentially, right? Like I'm going to talk about my wife, who's an artist, and you might resonate with this slightly, I don't know, and that is that like I feel for her, right? That like ultimately as an artist, right, there's a monster inside artists, right, and that monster just wants free reign and just to fucking spew out like, you know, this thing. They don't know what the fuck it is. It's just, it has to come out, right? But your whole, most of your life is spent pressing a bin lid down on top of that, saying, don't fucking come out of here. And every now and then you let a little bit out and people go, oh, that was really good, you know, that's really good, and that's really, but like, you know, they're so afraid, and for whatever, like the rest of us, of just taking that away and just going, whatever. Like, so you were talking about your music, right? And you were talking about, you know, the structure and the loop and the this, and then you add that and then the other, right? But probably like a fucking gush of verbal diarrhea, like possibly, you know, might, you know, have, you know, the gold could be hidden in there. I don't know. But just looking at my wife and looking at how, you know, she kind of like does something and then she puts it out there because it's very personal. Like, you know, if somebody doesn't like it, like, you know, it's crushing, you know, so you're so vulnerable.
The light sculptures that she does, there's so much time commitment in a way as well. It's like it's an ordeal, I imagine, to bring these to life.
And you have to show them to people, and people have to like them and take out their checkbook and buy them.
Yeah.
You know, so you're hugely vulnerable. But the thing is that, you know, the more she lets that beast out, the better the work in a way. But yet, and at the same time, so like for argument's sake, I go to explore myself. I've finally got back.
Yeah.
Right? I go to explore myself, like sort of in a very small manner.
Yeah.
And I find that I've got a fucking wall there that I've got to try and penetrate, right? Like, because it's self-protection. Like, and so like Niamh is slowly allowing this thing out. Well, this is my perception of it, maybe not hers. And you never know, you could get her in the hot seat if you play your cards right, right? And so, you know, I just think it's funny. I think it's interesting. And it's like earlier on I was saying, like, we fucking lie to ourselves a lot, like, you know, as like not lie to ourselves a lot, but like we're constantly protecting ourselves.
Ourselves.
Why aren't we just like fucking, you know, just fucking let it all out there, like, you know, just be vulnerable, because whatever.
That's the part of our condition, is that the highs also can come with lows. You know what I mean? You step out of your comfort zone, and, you know, I've had it when I've been busking. Sometimes it's not going well. Some people aren't liking it, and some people like will say something. They'll be like, "Just say, turn it off," or something like that. And in the moment, it's like, "Oh, my heart," you know what I mean? It hurts. But yeah, that's just part of it. You know what I mean? And you have to kind of try to transcend that. But I think the big thing, for any sort of personal growth, it's just like you have to find on the periphery of what's possible for you to do and explore, what's kind of makes you scared, you know what I mean? And what's like, when I first started this podcast, I always had this idea. I love podcasts, I love watching them, and I just thought, like, I could definitely do that. I talk enough shit as it is, you know what I mean? But then to sit here, put the camera here, and I hit record, and I was freaking out. I just couldn't get going. And then my brother, he's recording all these TikToks, and I had to be like, how do you just talk with the camera on. It was a total...
Well, your whole journey to here to today.
That's what I mean.
Like, you know, in a sense, you can see it. It's very...
It's clear. It's
absolutely.
Freak.
You're just working shit out in your own head.
All the time.
Yeah.
So whatever that thing is, the next step for you, I imagine, will be something that, you know, maybe you're worried, like, what are people going to... Like, when I started busking in skerries, it was actually much harder to busk in skerries in town because I was kind of...
Because you know
I was
people.
coming out as a... Like, people might have known me as some other version of me that I was.
Anybody who's ever met you knows you.
No, but I'm turned up more now, maybe. You know what I mean? I'm less... I have a better kind of self-image, maybe. You know what I mean? I'm more confident. Let's just say that's what it is. So, but there's something about in your own town, seeing people that you know. But then once you do the thing, then it doesn't have a power over you. I was thinking about busking skerries for, like, since I got back. And then the summer, I was just like, I need to just do it. Then I picked a little tiny place, a little bush just off the lifeguard hut. It doesn't really matter where it was. But it was a place that no one could kind of see me, in a way. And I did it. And then I was with a girl at the time who did it with me, so it was even more safer. And then I kept doing it there for a bit. And then I suddenly was like, all right, I seen someone else do it at a more busier place. And I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to step into this. But I wouldn't have been able to do that straight away. You know what I mean? So it's all...
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You, like I said to you at the start, like, I'm suck it and see, you're suck it and see.
Yeah.
I have to feel the feedback of something I've done or something I'm doing to see, oh, yeah, that's shite. Like, you know, that now I have to... But if I did this, it'd be a little bit better. It'd be a bit more digestible in this format, like, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, I can see you working that out. Like, you've taken... a lot of fucking strides, like very quick, long strides. But your issue now is getting the punters into the seat.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
need the punters.
Yeah. That's the other part of it.
And I thought it was interesting, like you said, you know, can you get, like, say, your old karate teacher or, you know, a school teacher or whatever, you know, but at the same time, like, you know, like I heard Sean saying, you know, that as he started to do these things and hear his own voice and like see himself and whatever, that, like, you know, he found it a lot easier, you know. And I thought, okay, that's cool. Like, you know, so, you know, when you were saying that you were looking for people, etc., and I was talking to Sean and I said, tell him I'll do it. You know, that like, in a way, it was that leap of faith. It was that jump. It was like, you know, Sean saying, yeah, it's cool. Like, you know, you just have to dive in first and then you move on from there, you know. And I just thought, yeah, fuck it. Like, what have I got to lose, you know?
And in fairness...
So anybody listening...
This is blowing my expectations of this. I didn't... like, when I started off, I have to say I was a bit... I'm always a bit freaked.
I'd like to get, like, you know, some girl who fancies you in front of you.
Oh, man.
And watch you go to fucking goo.
We'll see. We'll see. But there's a sense of... at the beginning, I'm once you start making little mistakes, then you start getting in your own head with this podcast and things. But just in regards to for your own stuff, there's something I think there's lots of value you can bring with the information and your knowledge in some way, in packaging that up, even in the space that you're in. Maybe I don't know what that would look like, but venturing out into more, how do you like your expertise in a way? How can you bring that value to market in a way that's not just about people coming to you in a way?
Well, that's a fucking tricky one, right? Like, and that is that, like, first and foremost, right? Do you package that up and try to kind of like be commercial with it in some way, shape, or form, right? And then ultimately it's a load of bollocks, right? Like, effectively, because it's not real. Secondly, more often than not, like, so again, like, I'm 49, just gone, and my opinion is that your 20s are a thing, and it could be like 20 to 25 is a thing, or 23 to 27 is a thing, or so it's not just one thing, but that, like, your 20s are a thing, let's call it, and your 30s are a thing, and your 40s are a thing, and your 50s are a thing, and you cannot have that thing in your 20s or your 30s. There's a load of shit I could say to you, and it's not going to fucking make a jot of difference to you, because you do not have the experience to understand that like, you know, this thing happens to you and you pivot because you know, if I
Yeah,
go
yeah.
that way, it's fucking load of bollocks. Like la 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 la
But
la.
it makes
It's
no
experience.
sense, though.
Experience. You cannot. Now, what you can do in a family company, in a family business, is there can be structure, and you can bring a kid into structure, and that's great. I didn't have that. That didn't exist in the business. I've learned everything from the ground up. As far as I'm concerned, my dad, if he ever sees this, he might fucking disagree. But
Yeah.
I don't. We could have that argument at home. But the point, but the thing is that generally you cannot tell. I cannot tell a 20-year-old or a 30-year-old. I used to think I could, and you know that because I fucking said a lot of it to you. But you can't, and it's just, and then you realize it's futile, and like you just kind of, you kind of have to, I suppose, really. You know, you can say how you felt, or you can talk about this, that, and the other, or you can give a person a little bit of guidance in some way, shape, or form. But your gut instinct is to fucking say to them, "Listen, skip these few fucking levels, and you'll be there, and this will be great." But you can't. And then, like, you know, again, interestingly enough, like as people go through life and like they gain status, etc., whatever the fuck it happens to be, or they have a successful business, or they're successful within a business, etc. You know, it's all of those little failures that you were not there for, that you don't really know how. Like, let's say an email they got on the side that you don't really know much about, something that they fucked up that they covered up, something that they fucked up they got given out to, etc. It's in that given moment where they have to make a decision, and they make that decision based on these 10 things that flash through their head in a second. You can't teach that.
No.
It has to be lived. And so you just have to crack on with the mistakes. And that's an interesting thing. I said to my two girls, one who's 21 and one who's 17, like I was kind of brought up in a way, and that is, don't make mistakes. And I was thinking about it, and I was thinking, that's a load of bollocks. Like, and this is about 5 years ago or whatever. Like, it took me that long to come around to it. And I was saying to them, make as many fucking mistakes. Get out there and make a shitload of mistakes. You know, like, you know, because that's how you're going to learn. Like, that is how you learn. You know, you don't learn by everything going tickety-boo and like, you know.
No, you don't learn anything from that. You actually don't
absolutely
learn
nothing.
Anything. Because if it all goes right, then, like, let's say you just kept hitting home run after home run, not because you were just on a lucky streak. You didn't even know you were on a lucky streak. And you just thought, and then suddenly it all starts coming down because it wasn't... It was just, you just basically got a bit lucky in what you were doing, and then you didn't really learn anything along the way. And that's what I think, that's what life is. You know, it's unfortunate that we do have to kind of get the scar before.
It's not really, actually. It's not really. It isn't really. It feels like it in the now when it's happening. Oh, woe is me. And you can feel sorry for yourself and all of that kind of guff. But when you get over it, right? Like, no, it's not. It's a positive, you know, and just, you know. But again, just going back from that for a second to what I was saying about asking myself questions and finding that there's a wall there. Like, I still don't know, like, at 49, like, what is it that I require, you know, for the next 15 years of my working life, like that is going to make me happy. And I was thinking about something there the other day, like Niamh, for example. Niamh likes to switch off and watch the box. And if I'm watching the box, I'm thinking, this is a fucking waste of time, right? Like, I should be doing something more productive. Yeah. But now I'm thinking, like, actually, you know what? Like, you know, I don't need to be doing something productive all of the time. And I don't need to be moving forward.
Optimizing every moment.
Yeah, no, not at all. Yeah. Absolutely not. And I did for ages. And part of that is kind of like, you know, oh, you know, I should be like, you know, going to markets in France, or I should be going to markets in Italy, or I should be like, you know, buying stuff here and there and everywhere, and I should be doing this, that, and the other, and la 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 la. Yeah. And that's a load of fucking guff too. Like, you know, in a sense that they're all great times and they are all things that you remember, but they really are like kind of once a month, once every 2 months, once every 3 months. You know, it's what you do every day, every single day, like those little things that actually are, you know, the things that make you happy or unhappy. Like, you know, what makes you happy? Well, this is, like I said, I don't know the answer to it yet. I'm working on it, but I'm starting to see that like basically most of my happiness is going to happen within, you know, a mile of my house or within a couple of meters of my fucking house, like in reality, you know, and that is going to be whether I'm listening to, and funnily enough, I was listening to a lot of podcasts a few years ago. I used to listen to them driving into work and driving home. And Niamh said to me after a while, she said, I think they're making you depressed. And I wasn't listening to like, you know, it wasn't all Gary V, like fucking, what do they call that? Hustle porn?
Yeah, hustle porn.
It wasn't all hustle porn. It wasn't all hustle porn, but at the same time, it was like, it was like these, journeys like that, like have kind of, gone somewhere as such, and you're looking at your own journey and you're thinking, fuck. But then at the same time, I'm thinking like, most of the people who I know who are like, who by all standards can be considered, successful or whatever, an awful lot of them, that is happening in their late 40s, early 50s. Like it's really all of their things are coming home to roost because their kids are at a certain age and they're starting to get a little bit of a gap in their finances. That's kind of allowing them to do other things. But when I was 20, I thought if you didn't do it by fucking 27, 28, it's over. Yeah. Like a load of bollocks. Like, that you're dead in the water. And that's absolute horseshit. Like, it's a long journey.
100%. That's even like the certain things that I was Googling before. Is it too late to get into music at like 23? Is it too late? It's never actually too late until you're dead. You know what I mean? That's when it's actually too late. But if you're just like, oh, well, I didn't do it when I was young, or I didn't do this, or whatever it is, it's all just a blocker in our head because it's a nice excuse. It's like me saying, oh, my parents died, so, that's why I can just drink. And everyone would just say, well, his parents died, like, so it's understandable. So it's the story.
That's one of the things I admire about yourself and Sean, like, is that you are, this did happen to you. And, like, neither of you are fucking, wallowing in anything. Yeah. Like, you're both out there doing your shit, like, you just
got to take it on, which is great, like, because,
I'm sure Orla is too, but I don't know.
Orla's actually in Canada. You've never met Orla, actually?
No,
I have to sort that out. But, because it's all about the story you tell yourself in a way, and you can be lucky, and we're all actually in control of it. And sometimes when I was losing my last business, that's when I realized it's easy to think that you're in control of your mind when things are going well, but when that happened, I went into a very dark place.
You were fucked from the get go, like, because there was just too fucking many.
Oh yeah.
You were goosed. There has to be, in my opinion, one person up at the top of the tree who has like more of a say than everybody else. Like communal fucking say is the kiss of death. You're goosed. I have never seen it work. And I don't really want to argue with anybody who thinks it does work because I'm not for it.
This is such a good point, because even this podcast, we actually had this idea a few years ago. There was 4 of us.
I remember you saying,
and you can't decide on anything, and everyone's in different places.
You just need somebody to
to do it.
Yeah.
Decision fatigue. It's a massive it's a pain. Especially in the companies I was in, everyone needs to look at the design. Everyone needs to. It's like just do. If you do the thing, it's already like 80 to 90% of the value or whatever. You don't need to waste any more fucking time just in these committees about shit. Like having too many opinions. Is a detriment to the enterprise because, like what you're saying, nothing gets decided on, and everyone kind of feels like, even with me and Chuck, we have to work through stuff. We have very different ideas about the code base, for example, on how to do things, and lots of we resolved a good bit of conflict today, but it's hard. It's actually really kind of.
Have you become a listener? Have you?
In what way?
As in, are you listening to Chuck?
I'm trying to be much better. I come across a lot abrasive, really sharp. You know what I mean? And not considering the other person as much. No, I am.
It's about winning or not, or being like, like in effect, can't all be about winning in a sense that, like, can't just be about winning the fucking argument.
That's what it's about. But you need to
because you gotta like, and here's a very interesting thing. I worked with a guy years ago who, in my opinion, you'd have never met this guy. He had it in his head that to get from A to B, there was only one way. And yet, like, I would have these kind of like, fucking tangential, ideas about like doing something, etc., and I would do the tangent and I would get to there.
Yeah.
But when we were working together and he would say, what you have to do is the A, B, C, I'd just do it because there was no point in arguing with them. I knew that if I was doing it on my Todd, I could do it another way, and that like my way might be 14 minutes, his might be 15, mine could be 14, his 16, his 13, mine 17, like whatever the fuck it was, it didn't matter, it would get done. But he was adamant that, like, you know, this is the only fucking way to do it. And so I just thought, oh, fuck it, like, it's only a difference of a couple of minutes. Like,
Yeah, that's the thing.
So I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to spend 3 minutes arguing to shave off a couple of minutes in this thing. So, like, you know, he was consistently telling me how we would do things, and I would do those things in that manner. But, like, you know, if left to my own devices, I would just do it a completely different way.
Yeah.
The thing would get done, and he would think that he had told me how to do it.
Yeah. But because you had to kind of... The best thing in that dynamic was to just say...
I just didn't want to win. Like, it wasn't necessarily about me winning per se. I just realised that it was a negative-sum game. And
exactly.
That, like, I just...
Yeah.
No point in arguing. But
the best way to win for the overall enterprise was to
but if I felt like that for sure, like, you know, we needed to... This one is going to end in disaster. We have to do it in another way. I would argue it, but if I could see it and I just go, no, it's.
But there is a place in your life where you can't really avoid being the sole decision maker. I imagine is with Niamh in a partnership over many years. Two of you are kind of business owners as well. So, and I imagine ambitious people. I found in the past.
I think Niamh would agree with this as such, and that is that, like, she has so we had more people. She grew her business. We were already a few steps ahead in that, so she could see, like, I would come home and I'd be saying stuff about, you know, certain situations, and she could see how you know, the pitfalls, the positives, the negatives. Like, funnily enough, you know, like one, and you'll remember food from Historic Interiors or the Vintage Hub or whatever, you know. Like, I always used to say years ago, like, you get more for a donut than you would for 50 quid. Like, you know, in a sense, if I gave you 50 quid on a Friday, like, you know, I'd get way more out of you if I gave you a donut at lunchtime.
Yeah.
Just it brings people up, and it's like, you know, 2 quid like versus 50 quid.
Man,
you know?
food in that little room.
And so Niamh would, like, we had you must have been there for a couple of the outdoor, like, where everybody was up.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's a couple of photos. I don't know if you're in them, but anyway, like, where we'd have barbecues and people going, or like you bring in a box of donuts or whatever it is.
Christmas
all
time,
of these little
people
things.
bringing in all sorts. It was just a happy place. Everyone calling. It created a whole different dynamic with the food. That's actually very interesting.
Yeah.
Because you're changing.
So she'd see all of these little nuanced kind of things, you know, that, like, I think helped her a lot along the way. And again, I don't know if she could hopefully. Okay, so I think this is.
You're just planting donuts, but you can't do it all the time because then it becomes too normalized.
But you get so much more out of it. Like, and I don't mean that in a whatever,
in a manipulative kind of way, yeah.
People just respond to things like that.
And it's nice to be nice as well.
Fucking right,
and it's just a consequence of that. It's
I'll tell you a thing.
It's not like you're just fucking planting donuts when things need a bit of...
Hey, listen, I want a donut. And if I could find me one, I'd find everyone one.
I wanted to bring stuff in so I could have a bit as well.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So Niamh, I think Niamh would... I would hope that Niamh would agree with this one as well, and that was that there was a point in Niamh's business where Niamh is a brilliant businesswoman. Like, she is a way better business person than I am, and she is a genius, like a proper, you know, in terms of her work, design, etc. She's, like, just way out there. Like, you know, she is a very, very, very special person, like, compared to the majority of the rest of us, like, in terms of what she does and how she does it. But what was happening was that she was being very mechanical about it, in a sense that her lads wanted for nothing. They had the best of everything. They had the best gear. The thing was set up beautifully. It ran like a fucking machine, etc. But from the discussions we were having at home, it looked to me like that Niamh was basically, you know, created this environment that was, like, you know, great and la, but that she was, like, away from it. She was not in the trenches with the lads, right? And, like, people want you to be in the trenches with them, in a sense. Like, I've always said about, like, my business, and that is that if we went to war, I feel like most of the people who have worked for me would come to war with me. Like, you know, instead of going, oh, fuck that. Fucking hell, I'm not paid for this shit.
But see, in your respect, you know, a big order comes in, you're getting your hands in as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a tangible thing that you can do, I suppose.
So Niamh basically said to me one day, like, you know, but everything is perfect. Why am I not getting this result? And I said, because like, you know, I can't remember how I phrased it. It was like kind of, you're their leader, but you're not their boss. Like, or you're their boss, but you're not their leader. That's what it was. You're their boss, but you're not their leader. Like, and that was that, like, everything was like tickety boo, like in the kind of like, you know, the leader way, but nobody felt that passion for the project.
Yeah.
And then she fucking dived in the trenches with the lads, and she works hand in hand with them all, and blah 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 blah. And there's just this major energy that came as a result of that. And
now it's
everything,
a team effort. It's
absolutely,
there's no
100%.
separation.
No,
yeah.
It's not like, you know, I joke with her that like her office is upstairs, like that she come to the window like at a microphone and like, you know, just boom down at them like like the Thunderdome or something like that.
Needs to be done by Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But no, it's definitely like the lads really feel it, and they're with her, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so we've both on our journey, like, you know, we've learnt, you know, various things going along the way, like, you know, and I think that, like, you know, our rate of growth, I think, certainly helped Niamh insofar as I made a lot more fucking mistakes, you know, as we kind of moved up, and she could see those and avoid a few of them in a you know, that's like square peg round hole, like I said at the start. Like that's me. She's not. Yeah. She is
this didn't work.
She is the best peg for the best hole.
Shut up.
Never misses.
He's lying. No, that's it. No, but another, what I wanted to kind of actually say was that was great. I was delighted that we got into that. But in terms of you have to decide how to raise children in a way, and potentially there's different ideas on the table and trying to resolve.
Most interesting one from that was, like, I thought for me, the one that resonated the most with me was I grew up in a house where you could be slapped, right? And at the very, very like outset, like I don't know if Katie was even born or she had just been born, and Niamh said to me, she said, you're never to lay a fucking hand on the kids. Like, you know, if you can't reason with the child, you know, if you then you're the fucking problem. And, you know, I've never touched the kids. I'm not looking for kudos for that, but I just thought it was great because I used reasoning with the kids the whole time, you know, because they are a kid and kids are manipulative.
Oh, yeah.
And so, like, you know, there is that frustration and whatever, but outthinking them is brilliant. Like, it's fucking great fun.
Well, kids are manipulative even from the start. Crying is a form of manipulation to manipulate you into feeding.
But you can tell, your ear becomes attuned to a manipulative cry, a genuinely real cry, and I'm in distress cry. All of these things come with experience. Tears. Exactly. But the point really is that, like, not that was a pivotal moment for me, because I always wanted to be a parent and I'd always got a vision of how I was going to be a parent. But I hadn't even considered discipline. I hadn't even thought about it. And like, you know, just remember, like, when she was saying that to me at the time, and I hadn't thought about it at all. I hadn't got like a firm position, but I certainly didn't have a position that I was not going to be a disciplinarian.
Yeah.
And then that was taken off the table, and that was brilliant, because effectively then what it did was it just said to me, you know, this is now a mind game in the best possible way, not a mind game in the worst possible way. And that is that if I am not getting what I want, because I am an impatient person, and I am not, like, I am flawed in many, many ways. And so, like, you know, there is a chance that I could be a shit fucking parent, right?
Yeah.
You know, I'm coming from, like, in my upbringing, like, you know, my dad was a workaholic. Like, he'd be fairly happy to admit to that. And he was also an extreme, like, he was quite a hard, like, disciplinarian type, like, you know, very firm father figure. But, like, at the same time, like, there was an awful lot of wonderful stuff came from that, and there was a few things that, like, I thought within myself, that's not going to be me. That's just not going to be me. I didn't appreciate that as a kid. Yeah. So going back to, like, how I like to treat people who come to my work, I like to treat them the way I like to be treated, and I try to treat my kids the way that I wanted to be treated as a child. And I think I wanted to bring all the good shit and lose the bad shit.
I think it's such a fundamental thing. You know, we can easily spot, oh, I don't want that. Like, one thing in my head, I'd be like, oh, I'd like to just push a bit more in, like, not just, it was great that I have lots of freedom, but a part of me thinks, like, if I had to start program, not that I could start program, but he did. My dad bought me a computer and got me on the internet before you know, a lot of other people, you know what I mean? He kind of seen, and he had some friends that were kind of, but he wasn't a sophisticated man in, you know, in a massively educated way. He was just happy for us to be happy in a way. But a part of me thinks a bit more, like, but then if I had got the whip cracked a bit more, I'd be like, I got the whip cracked too much, and I'm not going to do that to my kids. I'm going to let them be free. So I don't know what it is. There's this kind of tendency.
Kids love boundaries. People need to fucking realise that, and they need to stop. And the one thing I fucking hate, if anybody ever comes to me and says, we're friends, right? They can go and fuck themselves, right? People who say, I am friends with my kids, right? Because there is only one mother, there is only one father, there's a fucking shitload of friends. And if your greatest wish is that you and your daughter or you and your son are friends, yeah, you need to fucking rethink. You need to rethink your parenting.
And with my dad, though, in terms of, I was always afraid of stepping out of line. You know what I mean? Like getting in trouble off my dad was the worst. I never really.
Likewise.
Yeah, I never went and mitching off school. I remember actually the one time that he did hit me was I came home drunk on Christmas Day, right? And he'd never seen me drunk, and I'd been a teenager, and I'd been drinking a fair amount at this stage, and I was pissed, and it was just terrible, but it was my fault because I was like, he didn't hit me hard, like, he just kind of, I went to him, I said, he was saying like you blah blah, and I was like, hit me then, you know what I mean, and you can't, I don't think you can back down from that in that situation, so he just came over and like kind of slapped me a bit, you know what I mean, but the point, like, but I remember one time me and Sean got caught smoking weed as well, and then we got just like kicked out of the house for the night. You know what I mean? We couldn't get in, or so I always knew. And then in school, I was always afraid. Even though I was a messer, I got suspended a lot. I would never go on the Mitch, or I'd never like. There's certain boundaries that other people might cross that I'd be afraid to cross because I don't want to get in trouble. So there was a kind of there was definitely a line there, you know what I mean? But there was also a part of me, I was very manipulative in how I'd approach, you know, I'm going to this festival, but tell him I'm going camping, or I'm going out drinking. I kept he knew I was lying, you know what I mean? I was just basically saying I was sleeping in this person's house, and we'd always have a fight at the end of the night. That's why I have to come home. Oh, we're always fighting. And then he's just like, why are you bothering going up? But because like Trump showed, basically, if you just keep lying, you can kind of just keep, it's like, if I just kept saying, you know, oh, I did do that thing, and you're like, no, you didn't. It's like, I did. Like, we're never going to get anywhere. You know what I mean? And it's kind of awkward then to say, because I'm basically saying something.
But that's soulless. Like, ultimately it's soulless. And that's fine as a kid because you don't know.
Oh, 100%.
But as an adult,
oh, no, 100%.
That's pure soulless.
Yeah,
you know? I don't regret any of the things that, like, you know, specifically like that happened to me, or the parenting of me per se. But what I did try to do was to remove them from my repertoire.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, a guy who I know who was having a kid almost the same week as me, he said, you're going to fuck them up either which way. And I was
100%.
Like, no fucking way. Like, I'm going to be great at this shit. Like, this is going to be perfect and la 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 la. And then, like, I relented, like, shortly into it, and I realised what he meant. And that is that I may bring, like, let's say my A game to, like, 4 areas.
Yeah.
And there's a million.
Yeah.
And I'm just not, like, don't know what to do at the side of a pitch and shout words of encouragement, or bring them to a tennis court and make them, or give them a guitar and tell them what to do with it, or whatever. But that there are other things that were in my arsenal that were good. And then, like, to go back to say myself and Niamh, like, which is the genesis of the thing, and that is that like, Niamh is you know, like, she'll kill me for this one, but they say you marry your mother, right?
Yeah.
And, like, you know, my mum was an immense mother and woman, and Niamh is an immense mother and woman.
Well, that's
like,
a compliment.
Sense, like, yeah, I know, but, like, you know, you marry your mother, right?
That's it, whatever.
Yeah, I've said it to her before, and she knows it. But the point is this: is that, like,
Does she like your mother?
Oh yeah.
Oh, then it's all good.
Yeah, but
I know.
You don't want to
it just sounds messed up.
You don't want to be compared, like, as in ever.
I know.
Right? Like,
I know. As long as you don't say her name in the bedroom. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no.
Keep going.
Anyway, so the point is that like, you know, she's She has like I've always said, like, you know, Neve, like in terms of, say, I like cooking, like, and at home, like, Neve keeps us alive and I keep us kind of like, I do something interesting every now and then type of thing. It's not like constant meals getting knocked out, etc., etc. So I kind of do something that's like a bit more fun, for like, not fun isn't the right word, but something that's a bit more you know, less of a normal whatever, blah 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 blah. Whereas Neve is busy, comes home, just lashes something together and blah blah blah. And so, like, again, she kept the kids fed, watered, slept, like, up to speed with their sleep, etc., etc. And then I waltzed in and did all the fucking you know, little bit of zhuzhing. Yeah, but it worked.
If you asked your daughters, you know what I mean, they'd have an answer just like you have an answer. What would you change about how you were brought up? And we all, every one of us has an answer.
100%.
That's what I mean. So once you realise that, it's kind of like you were saying, when you realise,
but it's too
liberating.
Late.
No, but
it's too fucking
in a
late,
way,
like,
when you realise that there's nothing you could do though. There's literally, if let's say, because some of them are contradictory. Let's say if, like, for example, you wanted more structure because you didn't feel you could have achieved more in education if you had more structure, more push. But if you did have too much push, then you think, oh, I wish I had a bit let looser. Like, I felt like I was too stressed.
I think we got. I think in fairness to myself and Neve, we did not. You know, it is not like our parenting was not perfect, right? Like that's for sure. But by fucking Jesus, have we produced two fucking cracking kids?
Yeah.
Like they're just so competent. You could fucking drop them anywhere and they will do whatever and get wherever. And they're really, you know, they're two proper, smart, well-mannered, capable women, like, you know.
So, if there's one thing that you feel contributed to that, what do you think it is?
Oh, I feel from my own perspective was that, so when I was growing up, I'm very inquisitive, right? And it's like, you know, what's that? I ask my parents fucking 1,000 questions a day. And they used to just say, because that's the why.
Yeah.
Right? So I said, I am going to answer every fucking question I'm ever asked. And I'm going to give them whatever I can. Like if it's a question about sex when they're 5, I'm going to give them the 5-year-old answer. But it's going to be fairly kind of clear without any level of, it's going to be purely for a 5-year-old, but it's going to resonate with their mind as a 5-year-old. I'm going to speak to them about that in that manner. Not that came up.
In a way that makes a bit of sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, funnily enough, like here's like, you know, for example, like, right, one that I always remember, and this is not isn't like, this was unintentional parenting, right? So we're in Italy. Neve wants to go off shopping, right? And we're standing outside the Museum of Torture, right? And I'm there with 2 fucking little girls, right? That are like, I don't know what age, like 12 and 9, or like 11 and 8, like, I don't know what age, right? And Neve, or between us, we've decided we're going into the Museum of Torture, and we're in the fucking door, and I realised that everything in this place is about killing people and making their life an absolute fucking misery.
Oh my goodness.
Right? So I just thought to myself, like, it was like, I don't know if you've seen the film La Vida è Bella, where the guy is in a concentration camp with his son, and he turns the whole concentration camp experience into hide and seek for his kid.
Yeah.
And he tells him they're on holidays and it's a game, and it's such a fucking beautiful film. It's incredible, right? So I walk in the door and I see this and I think, fuck, like, they could be traumatized by this shit. So I start making light of it and like having a laugh and like and I don't know how we did it, but we got through the whole fucking thing.
2 hours.
The whole thing, and like, it was great. And like, you know, I'd imagine that they could recant it to you in a very kind of a soft serve, you know, manner that was like fun and funny and like, you know, not horrendous. And like, you know, there was a bull there, like a metal bull that they used to put people inside.
That's the worst one.
Like, fuck me. Like, how do you fucking make that a bit of
that.
crack?
Yeah.
For 2 girls.
They taste great after.
Oh, Jesus. So like, you know,
oh, man.
I got through it. And at the end of it, like, they loved it. Well, like, you'd have to ask them.
Oh,
But
yeah.
the thing is, there was no, like, trauma. There was no standing outside, like, with two girls who were
It's
like
what happens when you die? It's like you're gone forever. And then it's just like, let's go to the next one. So it's like, you know what I mean? You have to kind of...
it's a great thing for your mind, though. And you would definitely... Like, I heard your brother saying you're great with kids.
Yeah.
You would definitely buzz off it. And that is...
Oh,
that,
yeah.
like, you're talking to this, like, fucking mind that's just open to going anywhere.
I love children. I love talking to them. And I love trying to tell them the thing that's going to give them that
Here's
little...
one for you, right? Katie loves Harry Potter, right?
Yeah.
Like, loves Harry Potter. Neve has this dream where she's on the set of Harry Potter. Both of us worked in film at one point, and so you know, there are various stories in our family of us working in film. And she's on the film, and she's talking to one of the people from Harry Potter, and she's telling her all about Katie. And then Neve says, "And then I woke up, you know, like it was just a dream." And Katie says to her, "Well, at least you told them about me," as if it was, you know, because that's where a kid's mind can go. Like, you know, it's 100%. Brilliant. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, it's and there's I was listening to Sam Harris talk about this. So how do you feel about Santa Claus? Because
I think Santa Claus is absolutely 100%. Get it on, like fucking bing bong, like get into it, and do it, and so on and so forth, and tweak it as it requires tweaking. But none of this fucking bullshit of I'm not going to fucking lie to them and all of this kind of guff, right? Like, there's plenty of parents out there who are, you know, they're steering the ship in the wrong direction in all sorts of other ways. And Santa is not the fucking lie that you're going to, that Santa is not the iceberg or the Titanic or whatever it is, right? Because, you know, like the Easter bunny, like, fuck me, like a fucking bunny that lays eggs, like, Jesus, you know, there's all sorts of shit. The Tooth Fairy's good crack, right?
Yeah.
The Tooth Fairy's good crack, but I was always sent in with the cash, and that was an absolute pain in the hole to get it in underneath the pillow. No, but Neve used to leave them little notes, like, from the fairy and shit. Like, it's gas because it fires their imagination. Like, it absolutely fires their imagination. And it gets them into a whatever, like, you know, and you don't have to, it doesn't have to become something mental. But the thing is that I had a few friends who were like, "Oh, well, we're not going to fucking do the Santa fucking thing or any of this kind of bollocks." Like, absolute, like, just horseshit. It's for the kids. It's a bit of crack. It's all around you. It's total bullshit, but, like, it's easy enough to kind of just go along with. Blah, 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 blah. Just get it on and buy them what they ask for. It's what you think they want is not what they want. Buy them what they ask for. We did that a few times. You learn the hard way. That is like, oh, she said she wants My Little Pony, but we bought her a desk. No, don't fucking do that.
No, you can study,
don't fucking do that. Get them what they fucking ask for. Mundane and all as that shit is.
I actually feel the same way. I've been kind of being swayed towards this. I think you've convinced me otherwise now. I like the idea of tweaking it as you go. You know what I mean?
You have to, because their brains are developing.
Yeah, their brain. Because my dad was so deep, right? Like, one time, all my friends were telling me Santa wasn't real, and I was so convinced. And so I came up with this idea. I was going to put paper all around the house, and so because my reason was if he got down the chimney, he'd be stepping everywhere, and there'd be soot everywhere, and then he'd have to be real. And so, like, when we came down on Christmas morning, it was just footsteps everywhere, and there was like a note written in. Each letter was a different colour. Like, he went to town. He'd bring bells out the fucking window and everything. He'd tell us that I was convinced that the stars were moving and they were elves. But those moments were so class. Everything was possible.
Two things here, right, on that. Like, one of them is just a story from our house, and that is that Ella wrote on an Etch-a-Sketch one time and asked at the end, "Would Santa please sign here?" So she knew he was real, right? Which was fucking brilliant, because that's the way her mind works.
That's hilarious.
But the second thing is that, like, your the tweaking of it, right? You get to a place with the kids where all of the other kids, like, somebody else has found out, because they've got an older brother or sister who's told them it's a load of bollocks, and then it starts to spread through the school, and you really don't want your kid to be the last one to know, because they could get bullied about it, etc., etc. But what people need to realise is this, and very few people do, and that is that if you can bring, your child is going to be an adult from certain age, right? Let's imagine that you let go of the reins at 14, and your son or daughter goes out and gets laid, starts smoking dope, starts drinking, really starts adulting as such. They are an adult from 14 to the day they die. Way we were with our kids was we're pretty fucking sure we got like Katie to 18 still in that like with the childhood.
Yeah.
And even though that can be slightly detrimental, she had a good fucking childhood.
Yeah.
And Ella is 17. Now Ella's a little bit more because she has an older sister and younger siblings grow up like you and Sean. Like, you know, Sean is you know, like in fairness, you know, like he's such a solid, like from my little knowing of him, like you know, he's a solid bloke, but that's come from being behind you fucking making all of those and then Sean comes up behind like exactly.
There's 100% that.
Sorry.
But
Basil, I should say.
Basil, Dunica or Basil. I just realised we've been going for 2 hours and 15 minutes, which is a new record, by the way.
Yeah, you can bore the tits off people.
But I think my word, because my machine only has 256 gigabytes, so we're gonna call it a day. But this was great. I actually had a really good time, and you're just the perfect guest. You know what I mean? Because
you can talk.
Because you can talk, but that's what you should do, man. You should be doing this. You know what I mean? We'll have you back. You know what I mean? There's plenty more shite to be talked, and we'll catch you on the next one.